Hey guys, and welcome to Little Black Book 91. Yes, I'm in a brand new shirt, which means we've got a brand new conversation. I am sitting down with Eunik from the latest edition of Ready to Love. This season was a lot of carnage. There was mayhem everywhere. But today, we're hopefully going to bring some sense and restore some balance and have a great conversation today. Eunik, how you doing today?
I am lovely and blessed as always. How are you?
I'm doing good, I'm doing good, I'm feeling nice. The weekend was good, so I'm ready to launch into this particular week.
Okay. Well, if you don't mind, I want to start out on my best behavior. I got my stomach
Mm.
tucked in. I just came from the fair eating a turkey leg. So I'm gonna start out nice. We'll see where it goes.
Bring that charm. I'm ready for you today. I'm ready for you. You
I
know what I
got it
mean?
for you.
You got it for me? All right, cool. Well, listen, look, before we get into any serious conversation, we like to make sure that you are a human being because you're a very beautiful person. You could be AI. 2023, there's a lot of craziness happening right now. So I want to make sure you really are unique. So we're going to do some human verification. Is that cool?
Okay, I got you.
Fantastic. My first question is favorite color?
Black. All black.
Oh, black or black. Let me behave. Okay. iPhone or Android?
I think they get us every year. I'm team
Mm,
iPhone right now, but I'm not mad at an
okay.
Android. I'm not.
Okay. All right. You consider moving to Android?
I can't do the green box. I can't do it.
So you ain't really serious about Android like that because you ain't even thinking about moving over.
That's where I started from. So I remember
Oh,
my foundation. I didn't start Team Apple, Team iPhone. So
oh.
you got to remember
Where
your
did you
roots.
start? Where did you start then? Where did you
I
start?
started with
Samsung? What?
I had the first Galaxy. So before it was like the
Ooh.
Edge and all those, I had the first Galaxy.
Okay, so you real. I can't lie to you.
Mhm.
You had the edge, right?
That's when they first added the swipe feature on the keyboard.
I ain't even mad at you. You know what?
Mhm.
I'm a backup. I'm a backup. You know what
Okay,
I'm saying?
appreciate.
Because you're a
Talk to
real
me
one for that.
nice. Talk to me
I'm gonna
nice.
talk to you nice, real nice. You know what I mean? Favorite meal?
Oh, I don't eat pork. I don't eat seafood. Other than
Okay.
that, you can't really miss me. I just
Okay.
look like this. Like I can't get the gains, but I love food. I
I can't do the games.
can't get gains. It just don't
All
happen.
right, that's not wrong. You like a good steak?
I do. I absolutely
Mm.
do.
Someone asked me the other day, "What's the best steak?" And I couldn't answer it because I don't really know much about steaks. I just eat whatever the steak's offered.
Yeah,
Do you know anything about
I'm a
steaks?
T-bone kind of girl.
Oh,
Hmm.
okay. I don't know what that is, but it sounded good.
It's not for the faint at heart. Not for the faint of heart.
So
Mm-mm.
not
You got to
your
get
heart.
down through there on the T-bone. So
Wait, so how do you have it done? Do you have it medium? Do you have it rare? Do you have it well done?
medium well.
Medium well. Okay,
Medium
okay.
well.
I
You
just got
can't
onto
cook
medium.
all the flavor out.
I hear you because I just got onto medium. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm a converty.
Okay, I don't know if I'm
Yeah.
there yet.
Oh,
I
we
don't.
gonna bring you in. Don't worry about that. We gonna bring you
We'll
in.
see.
We gonna bring you in.
Okay.
I got you. Don't worry about that. Final question. Then is if you were on a plane and the plane, has to make an emergency landing. Just pilots like, hey guys, we're gonna make an emergency landing. You can land anywhere you want. Where would you want to land the plane? Any country you want. Where would you want to land the plane?
Oh, I've never been, and I really want to go to Egypt. So
Ooh,
I gotta see the pyramids. Gotta see that history. I'm gonna have to say Egypt.
okay, Egypt. Okay, I like it. The pyramids and that.
Hmm.
Mm. Careful out there though. But yeah, I hear you, babe.
Yeah.
Yeah, be careful. And I said final question, but I gotta ask this question: cereal or the milk in the bowl first? This is a key question.
Okay. Now I don't know what it means, but I do pour my cereal first, and I can tell you why.
Tell me why, babe.
Um, so I feel like a lot of times our stomach is bigger, or what is it? Our eyes are bigger than our stomach.
That's very true.
So what I
Mm-hmm.
do is I pour my cereal, then I add the milk. Because if not, if you add all that milk, you either have to add some more cereal or you're wasting the milk. So I do my cereal first.
I like the explanation. I'm not
I
mad at
feel
it.
like
I
it
did
was
it.
the wrong answer though, Kojo, based on your facial reaction when I said it.
It's because no one chooses to do the milking before the cereal. Only me. You know what I mean? I'm yet to find
Oh,
who does it. You know what I
okay.
mean? I
Sorry, I
felt
gave
left on
no
the
face.
edge a little bit. It's
Okay.
all right. It's all right. It's all good. Listen, you've passed our human verification. I believe you are a human being,
Whew.
and we can't wait to get deeper into your story and understand you a little bit more better. Now, Unique, obviously, you weren't ready to love, but I believe that everyone has a story outside of that show. That show is that
Right.
show, but you are a human being and you are a person who has gone through and experienced many things. So let me ask this question. Who is Unique and what is Unique's story?
So today, Eunik
Mm-hmm.
is sure of herself,
Oh.
and who I am. I have a great foundation as far as my inner circle, and that's work related, family, friends, and that circle is small, but fortunately, I do have that. Um, my story could be a lot of things. It's been a long journey in 32 years at this point. But one thing I can say is I know that there is, somebody greater than me, and that's where my um, faith and reassurance and everything lies, and kind of gives me the strength, day by day, to continue to be me and not really, focus on what other people think. But still, keeping in mind that you gotta, have a, I don't want to say a soft side, but be considerate of people. And I think to sum that all up, because I mean it's a story, Kojo. It's a story.
I'm ready to get into it. Mm. That's fair. Okay, so you mentioned the word soft side. It was the last thing you mentioned, so I thought I'd jump on it. Soft side. Maybe you can take us a bit deeper. What do you mean by soft side for Unique?
So I'm real rough around the edges. I love to
Mm.
laugh. I love to crack jokes. I like to have a good time. So as y'all may have seen, I'll say
Mm.
anything. And a lot of times, most of the time, I'm just being goofy because I like to make people laugh. Um, but I think that's when the word considerate comes in, that I'm gonna say what I'm gonna say. I'm not a mind reader either. So, if it's something that's offensive, or if I do something, because it's not always words, sometimes it's actions, when people bring it to me, it's hard for me to cut off that goofy. But once I
Mm.
know, I try to be aware of that and move differently with each individual. So that's kind of what I mean by soft side, because I'm like, I'm not easily offended by anything. I have brothers, all brothers. I'm the only
Mm.
girl. So I think that's part of where that comes from. So that's
I love that.
I try to work on that soft side, be more aware.
That's not easy because you grew up around obviously your brothers. You said
Mhm.
three. You say three.
Three boys,
Wow.
two older,
Older
one
than you,
younger.
or oh, okay. So you're kind of middle in a sense, almost.
So my mom, my youngest brother, my oldest brother was a freshman or a sophomore in college when he was born. So it's the three of us. And then later,
Oh,
I think I was like 13, 14 by the time he was born. So
wow. Okay, that's a
mhm.
big gap.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So wait, so that means for a little while you was last born.
Yep.
What was that? Tell us a little bit about that, because I'm firstborn. Me, I don't understand that life of a young, the youngest born. You have a different peripheral vision to us who are older. So, tell us a little bit about you being the youngest born. What was that like for you growing up in the household that you did?
So I think I can't compare myself to a baby, before my little brother was born. I could never understand that, because with me being the only girl, I'm always going to have a different, relationship
Mm,
family wise. So even though I was the youngest, I really feel like my brothers and I had a really good life. Not rich or anything, but we did grow up in the suburbs.
mhm,
We went to really good schools. I can't think of anything that I wanted. And maybe I had realistic expectations, but there was nothing I wanted that I didn't get. I can't say that I wanted, a Bentley when I turned 16. So it was feasible for me to get everything that I wanted. And the one thing that my mom instilled in us was she could not, like, the thing that she hated the most was someone who's ungrateful. So I think by
mm,
default, we just always were grateful. She, just held it down for us. So we, tried to carry our own weight, make sure we were good students. So that way, when we did have things that we either wanted to participate in school wise or extracurricular, um, or just material things, it was kind of an easy ask, because we were, pretty much good kids. So that's kind of my childhood as far as how I was. I wasn't mischievous. Um, I had a little stint in my teen years, but other than that, like I was a pretty good kid.
Oh, you had a little stint in your teen
I
years.
did
What
have
happened
a
in the
stint.
teen years that you was a little bit?
Um, I I don't know. I can't really tell you where it stemmed from because again, like I don't think I got everything to the point where I was spoiled. I feel like I
Mm,
could earn it, but I think I was just feeling myself. I think
that's okay.
everybody goes through that patch, and I think I was feeling myself a little bit too much during my stint. Um, and I got back on track really quick because it was things that I wanted. I knew I wanted later in life. That the path I was
Mm,
on was not. It wasn't going to lead me that direction. So um, I took out about a month or two, when I was
okay.
like 16 to be like, oh, we wilding. That was before outside was outside. I was outside. So so for me, I just looked at it real quick because I looked at some of the people that I was outside with, same age range or older. And I'm looking at the people
Mm,
who are older and I'm like, ooh, I'm not trying to go that direction. So it didn't take a lot for me to figure out that I needed to make a U-turn. That little detour wasn't for me.
I love that. So okay, so for you then, like you said you had a path that you were trying to go along,
Mhm.
and or a destination you were trying to get to, and you knew the path that you were on wasn't necessarily connecting with that destination. What was the destination that you had in mind, or the achievement that you were looking for, and what was the path that you were on that you had to deviate from?
So first question, I didn't know the destination. So I guess
Okay.
if I had to sum it up, I knew that I was destined for greater. I knew that.
Mm,
And I have a really creative mind, a really creative personality. So I was like, I don't know what it is I want to do, but I know it's not this. And whatever this is currently is not going to lead me to that greater. So at the time, at 16, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I did have a background, like as a little girl, like 4 or 5 years old, I used to model
oh,
because I used to be above average height compared to my peers. And then I had a little stunt in growth and we just
slow
stopped
down.
it. so
Slow down a little bit.
so I'm like, it was just always something creative in me. So I knew it would be something like that, but at 16, I wasn't aware of what it was going to be. The path that I was on, and just before we continue any further in the interview, I try to be an open book. I'm not ashamed of anything in my past because I do feel like, for one reason or another, outside of love, I was put on this platform to share my story and hopefully it'll help somebody. But at 16, I had an opportunity to go. I was in, what would that be considered? Like a vocational school. That was something my high school um, gave us the opportunity to do as long as our core classes and everything was up to par and we were on track to graduate. So that was my junior year. Um, it was me and my middle brother. We had a apartment together because my mom had to relocate for work. So it was one of those things that I'm a junior, he's a senior. So she knew we were good kids, and she was
Mm,
just like, hey, I don't want to uproot you. These are people you grew up with. You're so close to graduation. You have an option to, because this is in Oklahoma City, by the way. You have an option to relocate back to Dallas, or I'm a trust that y'all can continue what you've been doing and stay on the right path.
mm.
I ain't handled that opportunity so well. Um,
Uh,
at 16, I had my own little spot, and I didn't really party like that, but it was one of those things that if she was here, that wasn't going down. It wasn't.
mm,
Um, Basically, what ended up happening was I started getting comfortable, and I ended up like missing days of school, and so many times those days started stacking
as
up,
not.
and now we getting a
Hmm.
truancy call. My mama don't play. Like I know I said on the show, I don't play. That's where I get it from. So that call came in, and I don't even think I was at home when it happened. I got a call, had my first cell phone. It was a Razor. I was
Hey,
I was asleep. I actually wasn't partying. I wasn't doing anything, wrong. I was just asleep at a friend's house, and I missed the call. My mom has this way of like this. She got this gangster in her. She just does.
mm,
I woke up to a voicemail, so I pressed one on my Razor, and I'm like, "Oh, who is this?" And she just was like, "When you get this message, I need you to call me back right now. I'm on my way." Mind you, she coming from Dallas. She coming from Dallas to the city. So um, I dipped. I made myself scarce. I didn't
yeah.
want to be found. And that went about a month. So I was a runaway for about a month. And it was like,
Wow.
it was terrible timing. And I'm gonna tell you why, and don't laugh, because again, I'm goofy, and this is just the way my mind works. It was terrible timing because Thanksgiving was coming up, and I said I like to eat, so this ain't the time to be missing out on food. So,
It ain't.
but like I said, in that time away from home, I actually was working two jobs, going to vocational school, and I was a student athlete. So I had a lot going for me, and it was just like, oh well, my friends get to do this, and I didn't even think my mom was strict. I just was wilding, like I don't have an excuse. So it was one of those things that in that time away, I got to see people who were my age or much older and had nothing going for themselves. I didn't want to smoke all day. I didn't want to drink all day. It got to the point where those first, that first week, it was like, oh, we outside. Now I'm like, I'm ready to go home. It's I don't want to do the government
A
thing.
little.
I don't want to do, what everybody else is doing right now. So it didn't take much for me to get back on track. I had to make that phone call to Dallas though, like, Mama, can I come move down there? And so we've been right back on the right track ever since then. So that's what I mean
Wow.
by we was wilding. I was
Yeah,
wilding.
there's nothing wrong with that. You were 16. You were 16. You were exploring the world. You're trying to just, sometimes we have personalities that like to try and explore the world and test it out for ourselves. I don't think there's anything necessarily bad at that. I'm more impressed at the fact that you managed to last a month running away. And that's what
Well, let me tell you how I lasted. Because remember, I said I was
Please.
working two jobs. So
Mm.
I couldn't be at those jobs because that's one of the places I could be found. But I did really well with my money because I didn't have any bills. Like everything, we worked because we wanted to. I worked when I started working when I was 15. I worked because I wanted to. I had friends who had cars, so I was just like, why would I go get a cash car and spend all that money or go have a car note, pay for gas and all these things? I'm like, no, I'm just gonna ride with them. Because all of my friends did the things that I did as far as sports and extra activities, or we had the same interests. So I didn't have anything that I wanted to spend my money on. So when I dipped with like I'm not. I mean, I was
Savings.
16, but I wasn't a dummy. So I was just like, I got a little bit. Now I'm pretty sure at 16, I thought that money was gonna last forever. So I'm like, it lasted about a month.
Still good though. It's
Yeah.
still good. So where were you living?
So I had a friend
Okay, fair
that
enough.
and it was a girl, but I want to say she had already stopped going to school. So it kind of was like another one of those things, like this is the path, this is the direction I'm heading in. I'm in high school. I've always been irritated, clearly not then, by people who drop out, like, and I know life happens, but people who drop out like junior year, senior year, like you're right here. And that was one of my examples. I'm like, bro, you get your GED, but I'm like, you right here at the diploma and you're eligible for it. It's not that you have bad grades. So that was just another one of the things that I saw that I'm like, oh, I don't want that.
That's interesting. I can't lie to you because I think, yeah, I don't see it as a bad thing personally. I think it's, we all have some of us have parents that are strict sometimes, and I couldn't have done a month because you know what, like I wouldn't last that long. But like we all have our our parents that can be sometimes strict, and sometimes your fear of what's going to happen in terms of the punishment, can make you want to just I don't have to deal with it. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I know I messed up. I know I made a mistake. I don't really want to have to deal with the consequences of my parents. It happens. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying? But it was important lessons that were learned from it that you took from it. It seems like in that time period as well. So aside obviously the dropping out aspect in terms of lesson, was any kind of other lessons that you felt like you learned from that period of time that you was literally fending for yourself?
Well, I can't say it was to that extreme because the friend that I was staying with, she was staying with her mom. So it was kind of like just
Okay, fair enough.
relocating. We didn't have to pay bills and all that. So that's why I was like 24/7. We are having fun. We just driving her mom's car around the city, doing absolutely nothing. But to a 16-year-old, we thinking this is the best part of our life. It just lasted a shorter period than it would to some other 16-year-olds compared to me. So any other lessons that I learned? I really feel like it was I want to have more in life. And I mean, just to keep it simple, I knew that wasn't going to get me there.
That wasn't it. So, okay. So, take me back then. So obviously, that was 16. But what was then, were you one of those people that had a dream when you were young? Like a vision of what you would be? Like, some people like to be a princess, some people like to be a doctor, some people like to be a baller? Do you have any dream like that yourself?
So
I don't know. Somebody likes to be a baller.
I think that mindset I think that mindset is something I still have. Like, I'm still forever a dreamer, because I feel like
Okay.
a lot of times we get comfortable and stagnant, especially when we're successful. It's like, oh, I'm doing good. Why switch it up? It's not that you have to stop what you're doing, but you can always do something else, even if it's just, side hustle, hobby, whatever. So I think as a kid, I think the first thing that I knew I wanted to be, not based on anyone else's influence, would probably be a model. And I think that's just because that's what I was
Mm.
actively doing. It was fun to me. Like, I didn't have the momager who was like, you gotta smile, or, trying to what do you call it? Bribe me with candy and toys to do right. Like, it was just something I naturally did well and enjoyed. So I think that's where my mind was initially. After that, I think I bounced around all over the place. Like, I knew I thought I wanted to sing, but
Oh, okay.
and I do have a decent voice, but I think it didn't take long for me to realize, and it's not because of the naysayers or anything like that. I try to be realistic too, and I just kind of asked myself, I was like, would I buy my album? No, like, I wouldn't, and it's not because it does.
It's honest.
I mean, but I think this is where it needs to start. And then it's your inner circle. And then, before you get to American Idol and embarrass your family, somebody should have told you this by now, whether you believed them or not. So I think I wanted to sing. It definitely wasn't anything more traditional or required, formal education to do. It was more just anything creative. I was and am still pretty good at writing. I was into poetry. So at one
Ooh,
point, I thought I was going to be a rapper. I'm,
okay.
I'm so glad MySpace
Unique, the
dismantled.
rapper.
That's
Listen, MySpace.
I had some bangers on there. So back then, I actually went by. It's funny when people say it to me now, because I actually went by Miss Unique. Um,
Ooh,
yeah, MIZZ. So
jeez.
me and my eldest brother, we actually did some songs together, and I was hardcore. It wasn't like bubblegum rap. At the time, I thought I wanted to battle the world. I can't freestyle, but
Mm-mm.
my pen, oh, it's mean. It's mean.
I would say rap for us, but let me not do that to
Please,
you.
please don't. Please.
But you sure? We can always drop a 64 here. I'm not
You
afraid to
know what? You know what? If you'll have me back, I will. Because I
bring a
know
little pen and paper.
spiral around here somewhere that got an old set of 16s in it.
All right. Listen, I'll bring my poetry too. I'll bring my spoken word. We'll do a little
Okay,
something, something.
let's do
Yeah, it's a bit. All right, cool. Okay, so okay, so you got the creative. So you're creative. Wait, when's your birthday? I
So
don't usually ask this, but
I'm April 30th. I'm a Taurus.
oh,
Hmm.
okay,
It's
interesting.
gonna all make sense soon.
Yeah, that's okay, okay. All right, cool. Okay, so your dream almost in a sense was creativity in a sense, like being a model, but obviously you had other creative gifts that you had as well that were working at the
Right.
time as well, which you were homing as well. So I would say you got your brothers and your mum. You've spoken quite a lot about your mum.
Hmm.
What was the relationship like with your mum then? So growing up, mothers and daughters usually in relationships and stuff quite interesting.
So I think because my foundation with my mom is built on just respect. Because I mean, she's just one of those people that, first of all, you can't not have respect for her, just based on her journey, even to this day. So I think we've always had a great relationship. There's always been respect. We don't butt heads, and I think it's because a lot of times we think alike. So
Mm,
it can get tense sometimes when we finally don't, but that's few and far between. So I'm like, I want to go as far as to say, like, me and my mom are best friends, but not in that sense where she finna be my little friend. Like, it's still, levels
it's
to
the
it.
levels.
But
Hmm.
definitely a best friend level, and it's been that way. Like, that's my day one. That's my day one for real. So always been a good relationship with my mom for sure.
Love that. So obviously, I haven't asked. Obviously, you've spoken quite about your mum quite a bit.
Mhm.
I haven't spoken about your dad as of such.
Okay,
So I
because
was
it's
wondering
it's
if there's a
it's kind of
relationship there.
short and sweet. So there was a relationship. I don't know if it's been brought up publicly, but my dad was in
Okay.
the military. He was in the army. He actually died 9 days before my 5th birthday. So I do
Sorry to hear that.
have a few memories of him. Um, but I don't speak of him much because I'm 32 now. And there was, basically my whole life without him. But when he was living, I was, from my memory, a daddy's girl. He was an active father. But I think right before his passing, from what I remember him traveling a lot because he was like active duty, front line. He had some stripes. So the memories I do have, of course, would be with him being home, and I have pictures, fortunately, um, of our time together, and you can just kind of see and feel the love in the pictures, and it kind of brings back the memories that I do have. Like, no, I don't have to like fake it and wonder, from, because a lot of people don't remember being 5 and under.
Hmm.
I don't have a boatload of memories of him, but the memories I do have, it's always like, I remember him being at birthday parties. I remember him taking me to the grocery store, buying me green grapes because I love green grapes. And at the
Okay.
time, before they started taking all the sugar out of all the food, I loved Hawaiian punch because it's different now. But I do have those memories, but I think I don't mention him as much because he's just
It's,
not been
yeah.
here physically. So, but I love
Looking looking at your life now, then, do you feel like that's impacted you in any particular way?
absolutely. Um, you might not be able to tell, but I
Mm.
do feel like most of the impact has been negative. In a sense, his absence has been negative because I'm not going to say this is a bad thing, but I think that his absence has affected my dating preference. And I'm not ashamed
Mm.
to say it because I'm like, I prefer older men. And I think part of that, I haven't really figured it all out, but I think part of that is because of his absence. There's a part of me that likes a stronger man who, like, I don't want to say like he just tells you what everything's going to be and you just go for it, but I like a man who, like, be considerate, listen to my opinion, my input, take my input into consideration. But I am the type of woman that we have that discussion and the final say is yours. Now I can say that because the type of person that I want to be with, I should be able to trust you enough to trust your
To lead.
final, right. So I think it's affected me in my dating preference. I feel like it's also been some generational curses that have come along through not necessarily his absence, but just some things with my dad that I've
Mm.
experienced. So it's one of those things that I can easily say I don't have to think long and hard about it. It's definitely affected me throughout life and, of course, in adulthood and dating.
Mm. It's interesting because I think, well, two things. Sometimes the Lord he'd be funny because I was actually, and I wasn't even thinking of you when I was this morning, but I spent quite a bit of time, probably about 4 or 5 hours, just researching the effects of fathers that are not present, regardless of
Mhm.
whatever issue that is, whether they've passed, whether they weren't necessarily there, whatever, whatever. And it's interesting because you mentioned one of the things that one of the effects that does happen to an individual person. I don't know if that's the Lord just trying to say something, but the other thing is also I do identify and do understand what you're saying, right? Because I think, and I've mentioned it several times that even with a father that is present, if they're not emotionally present,
Mhm.
um, that can also be an effect as well. And that from a perspective, what I've witnessed having a father that's not as emotionally available, rather I should say, right?
Yeah.
It does affect you. You go cold. You grow a bit more colder. As a man, you kind of learn how to detach from your emotions and kind of
Mhm.
keep them at bay, so that because you don't want them to overrule you. You don't want to get too emotional and stuff for you and stuff. For you, then, do you feel like when it comes to emotional aspects that you are comfortable in that sphere or that space when it comes to that kind of conversation in terms of the emotions and
Like being vulnerable with my emotions.
yeah.
I think I've gotten better. I've
Okay.
I've gone through a few different transitions when it comes to that because I think I'd have to say maybe the first half of my life, and my mom used to always tell me, but I used to be more timid. I was still like outgoing and goofy, but when it came to like letting people's words or things bother me, I wouldn't necessarily cry, but it definitely got to me. And I wasn't necessarily afraid to show it, even if that was with or without tears. Now I think I can't say it's a, you know, a wall up or me being cold. I just think that with some other things that have happened in life, it's kind of like control what you can control.
That's a
I
word.
do have that in me to share my emotions. Like, I'm not ashamed to cry. I do always preface it, and I think that's the silly side of me. I'm like, man, I can't cry. I'm a thug. I'm a thug. But I'm like, no, that's just the goofy side of me. But I'm like, I'm not afraid to share what I feel, be transparent, have those conversations. If anything, there's a part of me that when I have those conversations, I'm worried, like, okay, now that I didn't put it all out there, what are you gonna say now? But it doesn't stop me from sharing, if that makes sense.
Mm. No, that's fair. That makes a lot of sense as well. Um, I do understand that perspective. So, I mean, for you, obviously, like you said, it affected your dating preferences.
Hmm.
Um, and you noticed obviously that you preferred older men. What was it like then for you dating then? When you first started dating, what was that like for Unique?
Um, I think I don't think I ever started dating. I know
Oh,
that that's a crazy
that's a
way to
word.
say that.
Hmm.
Um, and maybe this has something to do with my dad too. I would like attach myself to people. It
Mm,
wasn't like, oh, you like me? Okay, we gonna start dating. We gonna go to the movies. Like, it was never that. But I think part of it was because I was never interested in people my age range.
mm.
So dating for me actually started before. Oh, Kojo, I'm finna give y'all some tea. Wait a minute now.
Let me grab my tea.
Ooh, okay, let's everybody take a hydration break. Okay. So dating for me started in high school.
Hmm.
My interest started before that, but first interactions probably started in high school. Now, clearly, because I have an older dating preference, let me actually be more specific with that. I don't mean I'm a freshman, sophomore that prefers the juniors and seniors. I mean, these people can't even be on this campus without a reason. Like, I mean, older. It's
You
ages.
like older, old
Older,
school,
older.
older. I hear you.
So I'm like,
We in the 90s.
and it was silly to me even then, or not then. It was silly. It's silly to me now, but there was a part of my brain that always said, and it wasn't about the type of vehicle, but it was something about me that liked, you got your own stuff going on and you don't have to ask your parents. You work, you have your car, you have your own stuff. It's like that adulthood was attractive to me. Of course, I'm always like, these boys don't understand, and that type of thing. So, um, for me, I want to say my first. Oh, y'all got me feeling like Jada Pinkett. We are oversharing. Okay. I try to learn my lessons from other people, but I will say this because I don't share a lot of my personal life, and I know that there are a lot of people who actually do support me from this show. I feel like it's not an easy thing to do, to come on a
I
platform.
agree.
We know, well, I don't know if everybody else knew. I knew I would be judged, good, bad, ugly. But when you're sharing, especially in the beginning with 19 other people, and that's getting chopped down anywhere from what, 45 to 52 minutes per episode, you're not going to get to see every nook and cranny of
Everything.
our lives. And I came on here for love, but I'm like, I also came on here to share my story. So that's what we
Mm,
finna do now.
please.
I have two daughters. I have one that'll be she's 13, she'll be 14 in March, and then I have a baby girl, she's 5, she'll be 6 in December. So they have a little age gap. My oldest daughter's father um, is much older than me, and I had her when I was almost 19. That
Wow.
that duo should have never been a thing. If y'all can just read between the lines, that was never
Mm,
supposed to happen for multiple reasons. Um, and I think that kind of got me to a place where I was just like, and he hasn't been in the picture pretty much. Like he's aware of
sense.
everything, but he hasn't been in the picture since. I had a decision at that point to make as far as do I let that harden me and just be like, oh, all men are like this, and just kind of be that dog savage mentality? Or do I just say his loss and move on with my life? I think that was like a turning point for me, to be more aware and not so naive, but use that as a stepping stone. It didn't change my preference, because the ideal was, okay, these guys are older, so they're more mature, they know what they want,
Stability.
and they going, oh, we can't use that word. You can't say that.
We're gonna use it,
You
baby.
can't.
Stability.
You can't say that word. But yeah, I'm just thinking that this is a total package, because they've been here. Because I think part of me hears what I'll just say the old folks tell you when you're growing up, like, I've been there, done that. I've been here before. There's nothing new under the sun. Like, I'm thinking all that. So I'm like, if it's an older guy, he's done with all the games and all that. Learn that lesson the hard way. My baby is a blessing, but I probably could learn that lesson a different way. So, and weirdly enough, it was planned. So just want to throw that out there. But I think it continued on this path, like, okay, well, he was just a fool. And my dating preference has still been older. And I don't know that that's changing anytime soon. Because I just think it's young fools and old fools. I just got to find
That's
one
right.
that's not as foolish and matches with my swag, and
That's
understand,
right.
has that understanding for me.
Not wrong with that at all. Not wrong with that. Okay, so baby.
I
About
told
to
you,
have
Unique
me
got a story. You said, what's Unique story? Ooh, we got several.
since we're already here, we're in the deep. I like it. We're in the deep. So
Yeah.
because it's interesting, right? After I was studying, wanting someone who's older is about. That's why I mentioned the word stability. That stability becomes sexy because it's part of
Mhm.
what was missed in terms of structure.
Yeah.
What men usually father figures tend to provide,
Hmm.
usually, quote unquote, usually, for their children. So the older aspects doesn't phase me. I can understand that. But for you, obviously, then, like you said, take me in. I'm trying to, because I want people to understand I want the mindset
Hmm.
of when you're at that age, somebody who's older than you, how that works for you in terms of relationship, if it even be that. Because I know you was kind of skirting around it. You want to go too deep, so I'm just kind of presumptuously saying it. But it
Yeah.
sounds, what's the mindset that at 18, 19, that we're dating someone majority much older, and we're dating, and what did that even look like? That
So
you're dating that person.
so we can take it back even a little further. Because like I said, this was like high school, right? Um, Even prior to that age, I was always told that I was more mature. And looking back at
Mm,
it, I definitely was compared to people my age. But I really feel like no matter how mature you are, and I'm just using this age gap as an example, a 16-year-old will never have anything in common with a 40-year-old. Like, it's just not
nothing.
gonna happen.
Yeah,
And if so, we got a major problem. Like, it's something wrong on that older end.
I agree.
Um, so I think my mindset then was just, or I guess the effect that I was having in those dating situations or interactions was, I did like more mature things. Like, I love old school music. So to hear somebody play my back in my day, I'm like, that's my jam. And it
Mm,
wasn't fake. It wasn't me trying to pretend to be older. It just was like, that was the type of stuff I liked. So I think it was a easy interaction, with dating older, because I just liked things that older people liked too. Now, I think some of that actually came from me having those two other older brothers at the time.
brothers.
So
Mm,
because I think me and my oldest brother, I want to say we're like 7 years apart.
okay.
So he's already like way older. We never go to the same campus together because of that age gap. So I get to see him, I get to see his friends, I hear the music he listens to, I see the things that they're into, versus the stuff that my friends are into. And I'm like, oh, that's childish. And I think part of it is like, my brother's cool. So I want to be
Mm,
cool. So naturally I gravitated to the stuff that the older people liked. And then that transitioned over into my dating life.
wow. Mm. How did this gentleman even meet you?
I'm gonna have to write a book about that one. Oh, college.
Mm,
I can't. I will share it one day. But
okay.
my And I promise I'm not trying to skip forward. I promise I'm
No, no,
not.
no. I don't think you are. I don't think
But
you are.
I think I'm big about sharing my business, right? Like I'm big about sharing my story. When it starts involving other people, and I know y'all heard
I
this
understand.
before, when it starts involving other people, I kind of pull back because I'm like, how do I
You won't
tell
expose other people.
my part of it without sharing theirs? So I'll tell you enough to tell you like something happened, but if I tell you what, then that's involving other people. So
Mm.
that's the way my mind works.
It's quite interesting that perspective, right? Because I definitely understand what you're saying, right? When you say telling a story, but you don't want to pull other people, and it's funny because I had that same um, kind of thought process just I think maybe 2 months ago when I did a Dear Future Wifey podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So I was talking about my mom and my dad, and my mom's schizophrenic, and
Mm-hmm.
etc., and how that was upbringing, right? And the only thought I could think of was, well, it's not necessarily it's my story, but it's not necessarily my story. It's got other people involved. I don't want to expose them. I don't want to, you know. I don't want to. They're not. If people want to start prying, it's going to be involving them when it really is about me.
Right.
And it's funny. It's quite interesting because it's quite interesting. And I think I spoke to my sister, and she was like, "No, I really loved the interview. You did well." Da, 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 da. And I realized, I said, some of us like to, and I'm not saying that you should do anything, but I'm just saying, I'm just giving you an example. Some of us like to cover other people because we've been uncovered for so long, and yet it's our story to tell, but we still want to cover other people. So we can never really, and I'm not telling you to tell it. I don't want you to tell it, but I'm saying to you that it's almost like we I do identify with you in the sense of like wanting to tell your story, but then what happens is that because you're thinking about how everyone else is going to react or how everyone else might take it,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to tell that story. And in some sense, it's loving, and in some sense, it's also restrictive because you can't give your full truth, even if that
No, I
brings other people into disrepute. But I'm not saying you should do anything about it.
Well,
I'm
let
having a
let
conversation.
me
Yeah.
let me answer it by saying this. The reason why I won't say how this took place doesn't have anything to do um, with my daughter's dad. It's
Okay.
literally the connecting dot to how we met. Like there's a person
Okay.
as to how I even met him. So it's more of keeping their business out of it. I don't care about his business. I'm gonna be honest,
That's fair.
but but the other person. So that's the only reason.
That's cool. That's cool. Okay. So that obviously that gentleman that was for first daughter, right?
I'm sorry.
That the gentleman was obviously in question. That was for your first daughter. So
Yes, my
and then
oldest.
you have a second daughter as well.
Yes.
Fantastic. Was that from a relationship? Was that
So
were you married or something? Was that
that was my ex-husband.
okay?
Yes,
All
so
right.
we getting to that now.
The husband.
Yeah. So I's had a ring before. I's had a
Okay,
ring.
come on now.
Uh, I will say that was a rushed process, very, very, very rushed, and I take not blame. I take a lot of responsibility for how that unfolded.
Mm,
It was not a good marriage. It was not. And weirdly enough, we started out as friends. And of course, he was interested in the kid, so he wanted to talk to me, but we were actually like, real cool. And during that cool phase, I saw a lot of red flags then. And
mm,
once he, proposed moving forward, like into a relationship, I was just like, okay, well, we can date. I'm not thinking it's going to really be anything serious, but yeah, because I'm seeing these flags. And then once it got more and more serious, I'm just like, okay, well, not from the mindset of I think I can change somebody, because I don't believe in that. I just thought that based on what I knew about him from those flags, I was just like, well, he doesn't seem like the type that's trying to settle down, yet he's settling down. So
mm,
maybe he's growing up and some of these things are going away. So I think I was like, there's an expiration date on these flags, which it was just like an honesty thing. It was, an infidelity thing, amongst other things. And Eunik still got married. I still got married, but I didn't go into it blind. Like I can't lie and say popped up out of nowhere and he trapped me. Like, no, it wasn't that. I was, doing whatever, I guess. Just like, oh, okay, well, we're getting married. And there was love there. Like, I feel like he loved me, so I won't speak for him. But I'll say, like, I loved him. There was love there. But it never was supposed to happen. And we here now. So yeah, that's where my youngest daughter comes from.
Beautiful. What made you ignore the red flags at the time?
Because
What made you need to ignore?
because something ain't right with me. I think, like, I will say this, my personality is like real daredevil. And I do like risky things, which I know marriage is serious. So I guess in a way, I guess that is kind of risky when you're seeing flags. But maybe it's not risky. It's just like go with the flow. So when he asked me, I was just like, yeah, I already got feelings for you. I love you. This feels right. And it's not like I was the chick that was like, hint, hint, you got to marry me. So this, came from him. So when he said it, I was just like, yeah, let's do this. And I think there was a part of me when he asked that made me say that is connecting with he's growing up. Some of these flags are going away. And I just was wrong. I didn't have any proof that it would be any better than it already was. I just took that to mean like we're headed in the right direction. Like I'm real big on lanes and paths, and I was like, okay, GPS is taking us the right way. And I think at a certain point, I can't blame any outward or outside influence. I can only, just go based on my own mind and just say I just was doing my own thing. I was ignoring everything. Like I said, I got a really good foundation as far as family and friends. That inner circle is tight, but they also want what I want. So they were very honest and told me their opinions. And I was just like, it never made me mad because I knew it was coming from a truthful, loving place. And I was just like, girl, you think so? Okay, well, I appreciate that. On to the altar. We still win. So
I'm still gonna go.
yeah. And I'll say this. It didn't work out clearly. And just a little tea for y'all. I didn't file. I know it, it's crazy as I'm saying this is. I'm not the person who filed for divorce. And I really just have to chalk that up to that was God. Like it got to a point where God was like, okay, this girl is just gonna stick around. Like she not hearing me. I'm sending it through her friends, her family, she through her own eyes, and she just is not clicking. So I think God moved through my ex-husband, and I don't know what his reason was, but the greater good shined on through. So we're amazing co-parents now. We're right back to where we should have been
I hear that.
before getting married. We were never meant to be married.
Damn. Okay, so wait. So how long were you married for?
So I was married a total of 2.5 years. We were only together 6 months before we got married. So
That's not too bad.
But I mean, I think I could accept that because, like I said, I want to take accountability, right? Funny thing is, would I do it again? I would. Not gonna lie, I'd do it again.
No, I can tell.
But
You got a rebel in you, boy.
I'm gonna do it. But I think it's a difference between getting married, because you got to think this is meeting, dating, engagement, married, 6 months. I think I have to say it's a difference between doing that and it's just like this feels right versus you are seeing these red flags and you still do it. So yeah, I wouldn't do it that way again. But I walked away from that process. I had my little cookies and cream and, all my little fat snacks for about that first week. I was crying, needed a lot of tissue. But I think like day number 8, I just woke up and was like, do I still love? And I literally, had that conversation with myself and I said, absolutely. And part of it was because I really did still love. I was in love with love. And then the other part was I'm not going to let somebody who didn't value me take that from me. It's like you're winning all around the table. I'm a win somewhere. And that was my W to still be in love with love.
Interesting. So sit with me a little bit here.
Okay.
What is the driving force to be this daredevil? Because all the instances you're mentioning sound like you're daredeviling. And when I say daredeviling, meaning you're willing to do things on the edge,
Mm-hmm.
seems like.
Mm-hmm.
But if you were just to kind of sit with it a little bit, just kind of tap in a little bit into the thought process, what is driving this willingness to take risk?
I think it's coming from a positive place and a negative place, if I'm being honest.
Mm,
I think we would again have to go back to me being the only girl. So it goes back to my roots of when they're out there on bikes and skateboards, I'm out there. I don't care anything about press-ons and don't want to get my dress dirty. Like that was never my upbringing. And I was like, a well-groomed girl as far as like, I had all the dresses and the makeup vanities in my room and the kitchenettes. But I just always wanted to be out there with the guys, and I can't play a lick of basketball, but I can dribble. So it's like
mm.
I just wanted to, I think it's a part of the part that I'm connected to is like not conquering, but learning how to dribble. So everybody starts out not knowing how. It's the achievement. That's the word I'm looking for.
Mm,
So I feel like that's where I started out in childhood. Now, once we get to that, that 16 chapter, and I did that, I think that was just a rebellion. That was my rebellious phase. Getting married, I think that was the part of me, the chapter for my life in dating that wanted to see the good in people because they're as bad as it was, like there's good in him. And I think that's why we were able to put both of ourselves to the side and co-parent well for our daughter because that's the good side. It just didn't match well together. Um, and a lot of times I think I have a bad habit of assigning myself to people in dating
mhm,
or even in friendships. Like I will assign myself when I see somebody is falling short is not the term, but like when they're in need, when they need something or they're having a bad day, I make it like my business to be the one to fix it. I'm a fixer. And
you're
sometimes,
saving more.
like sometimes I will, and it's weird because I'm the type of person that I hate being mad or I hate having a bad day or whatever. And I think that's where the jokes and everything starts coming in. But sometimes you just want to be mad. Like, let me just sit in this for a second and then I'll get out of it on my own. So sometimes it can be irritating for somebody to be like, oh, let's go do this or smile. Like, that's making it worse. But I have a really strong track record of like assigning myself to people. And I think in, dating my ex-husband and then, of course, within our marriage, I wanted to fix it. And I think I didn't realize that it maybe even never could be fixed, but at that point it was a wash, and I think I just didn't want to take that L or lose or whatever, the titles that people put on failed marriages. And it wasn't because I thought people would judge me. It was never about the outside world. I also didn't ever do it for my kids. It was just something in me that was like, we started this, we finished this, and not by ending it. I never saw going that route. So
Mm.
I think it just depends on what phase of life I was in as to why I'm that risk taker.
It's interesting because when you explain your story, at 16 when you explain that story, it's such a profound story now, considering what you've shared. And maybe you can run with me on this. Um, what would you say if I said that you are still rebelling?
Um, I think I don't know that I'd agree. I think, well, let me ask you, in what aspect or in what sense?
In a sense, for instance, tying it together. Okay, so at 16, you accept that was you kind of quote unquote rebelling, but we're actually not sure why, because it's actually like a blip. It was more like a blip almost in a sense, right? We know that your
Mhm.
mum obviously was coming to get you, but it was more of a blip. You know, it felt like a blip, right?
Mhm.
Then you mentioned obviously the person obviously was introduced to, and then being considerably older. But you also said you was kind of aware that it doesn't feel necessarily kind of right, but you still kind of
Oh, it
went
was
ahead of it. Though.
very clear. Like I definitely knew
Oh,
that very much so.
so you was okay. So let's say you was aware, right? You knew, but you still stepped on it, right? You still
Mhm.
went forward in this relationship too. You was aware, and you knew, and you still stepped forward again. And maybe I should say maybe rebellion might not be the right word, but maybe almost a betrayal of self, because you know what's good for you, but you're willing to put yourself in a position which will leave you down the line in a deficit. You know what I mean? Maybe rebellion was the wrong word.
So I
You know
think
what I mean?
I think rebelling when it comes to the 16 thing, I think that's just that age. So I think that's why I chose that word. But as
Mm,
far as like leaving myself at a deficit, I can agree with that. And it's something that I'm working on, right? Because that has not disappeared. Not to that extreme, but there's still that fixer in me. There's that I'll refill my cup later. I'll find something, or somebody somewhere along the lines will pour back into my cup. So I never, that's not my priority. I never have that at the forefront of my mind, like, okay, you're pouring, eventually you're not going to have anything left to pour. I never think about that part. So I will say, if that's what you mean, then yeah, that's still that's still a thing.
mm.
That's still a thing.
So when's the last time you felt like a priority?
Oh, okay, that's gonna get a little hairy if I answer that. um I'll say, I can tell you exactly when I was a
Mm,
priority, um, submitting for the show.
mm,
I was a priority then. Um, and I think that's what led me to say, old keys don't open new doors. So let's try something different. And I wasn't like nervous. Like, I mean, I do this, I've been on screen before, not to this level, clearly. Like, I've done it as a character, not as me.
mm,
Um, but I've seen a lot of things production wise, so it's like, let's try this. And it kind of goes right along with the risk taker. Like, this is not something everybody would do, so it was kind of right up my alley. So um, yeah, I think that's kind of how we got to this point. Just having that
mm,
same piece of the puzzle that I don't know that I think it'll maybe get smaller, but I don't know that it'll ever go away. I think, and I don't know that it's a bad thing. I think if we had more people who were less selfish and more selfless, it might be a better place. But I think sometimes people with big hearts do take it too far, and we don't practice self-care, self-love. So I'm working on it.
mm. How do you feel about Unique?
How do I feel today? Um, and I think I must say, post divorce, I've been really, which was what we had a beginning of pandemic divorce, by the way. So that was a long drawn out process for nothing. But what I have learned post divorce is I'm really sure of me. I think when I was married, I didn't. I think a lot of times if somebody asks you, like, who are you? Do you really know who you are? Our reaction is just to say, yeah, like, I know who I am. But if you really sat and thought about it, like, we have these non-negotiables and deal breakers, and not just in relationships, just in general. And then when somebody pushes that line, do you really stick to those deal breakers, or do you kind of
Mm,
just keep letting them push it back? And I think within my relationships, I kept letting them get pushed back. That's not me today. And I think that's where I get a lot of stuff, like, I don't play. That's not to scare anybody. I just want you to be aware. So if you come to play, like, I'm the wrong girl for you. Um, and again, that's in every sense. Um, I I think it's that strength, knowing where that strength comes from, and not bringing, like, past hurt into the future. but bringing those lessons learned right along with me, because I think that would be irresponsible. I think that would be foolish for me to see something that looks very familiar and not at least say that that warrants a conversation. Like, hey, you know, I'm seeing this. Is this where we're going with it, or am I just seeing it wrong? Maybe it's just that trigger. So I'm like, no, I'm never gonna say I'm gonna not bring my past into the future, because it's there for a reason, and I feel like those reasons are those lessons that I did learn. So wiser for sure. I can say that about myself.
What do you? I mean, usually I ask this question a bit later, but what do you think? Because I think was it Chris that mentioned? He mentioned that he sensed a little bit of the walls. Christopher, I should say, not Chris,
Yeah.
but Christopher. Um, what do you think he was seeing at the time when he made mention of, he knew there was some depth, some story, some God. He
Hmm.
mentioned those stuff there. What do you think he was seeing? I don't know if you guys had a conversation in deeper depths about what that was, but
So we
what was he
did.
seeing?
In the moment, I'll say when we were actually having that conversation, I thought it was going smooth, but I'm so rugged, like I said, rough around the edges. So he's like, "Oh, you don't play." So I'm thinking, okay, he's getting my message. It wasn't until not, it was way before it aired. But, he
Mm,
did come to me after, I want to say that would have been after the men's lounge. He came to me, because we were conversing back and forth outside of the cameras, of course.
yeah.
And he was like, no, when you first said that, I'm going to be honest with you. That scared me, because it was like what he got from that was past hurt. Like, you're going to put whatever your past relationship problems were onto me or anybody else in your future. And that was a red flag to him. He was like, I'm not trying to carry anybody else's baggage. So he definitely, broke it down for me. He was like, but he was glad that he got past that. Because at first, and I don't want to speak for him, but this is what I heard. He was ready to run.
Hmm.
He was like,
Yeah,
no,
he did look like he was right. Hmm.
he was like, I don't want no parts in that. So I don't know what led us. I don't even know how we got to that point to continue on, after that, because based on what he got from me saying that, it was headed downhill fast. So
Fair enough. So what took you then? Like, what made you want to go on to Ready to Love?
so I have seen Ready to Love since season one. So I'm not
Come on.
not that cast member who's I've never heard of it. I just
Ah,
saw.
listen. Oh,
Okay. And I know there are some people who haven't. And I get that. But I'm like, okay, I'll take that you had never seen it before you thought to audition. But my mindset will never let me go into a situation and I haven't done some
blind.
type of research. So I'm like, you didn't go look at a clip, you didn't look this up at all. So I'm a day one season oneer. The whole time that I watched, every single season, I have I call her a sister, but this is an elementary friend. And every time I saw it, I'm thinking, okay, these are successful Black people, Black men, Black women. And, I just always thought, like, this is the show for her. Like, she's supposed to be on here. She is a kid. She doesn't have any kids. She's been at the same job since she graduated high school. Like, everything is what people say they want. And she's actually fun, because it's one thing to have all those things and you just boring. Like, nobody wants that. But I just always thought about her. And I know that she's not as outgoing in the sense of like getting on a TV show. So I was
Mm,
like, if you do it, I'm single and I'm trying to find somebody too. I was like, more than likely, they'll probably pick you because, you're a catch. And I was like, but, just to ease your mind or, jitters or whatever, I was like, hey, if I get picked, that's even better because we'll be on here together. So I ended up, submitting, going through the audition process to find out like halfway through the process, she never submitted. And it was one of those things that I'm like, we're getting these deadlines like, hey, you made it to the next step, but you have to submit this by this time. And I was like, either I could just miss that deadline since she's not going to be a part of it now, or I can just keep going. And I decided clearly to keep going with it. And, now we talking. Now we talking.
okay, I like it. So obviously, then you get on the show.
Mm. Are we there? That's where we at now?
We're pretty much there. We're pretty much there. We're pretty much there. She said, "Oh, fine."
Okay. We there? Okay, I'm ready. I got that out. We ready. Let's go.
So you get on the show, you get onto Ready to Love, you get there. I need to know who first captured your eye, and you were like, well, yeah,
Who
it's a little,
first captured my eye? And I was like,
mm.
Okay, what's the It's like
That's
or
that's a good like
like okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to be accurate in the order. I actually think, Kojo, I really want to test you and see if you've been listening. I will say, if I remember correctly, the first person that caught my eye in a good was Phil. Now, Kojo, why did I say Phil?
I don't know what it's about.
Okay, so I won't make you guess. You gotta go back and remember, like, I get older. I don't know anybody's age and all that type of stuff. This is like pre-conversation. This is just visually. Still got the salt and pepper.
Okay, fair
So
enough.
I will honestly say, walking in, because when I got there, everybody wasn't in, men or women. Like, I'm maybe the middle batch. So when I first walked in, I will say I was a little disappointed, and not like bad, but it made me think, like, because I'm pretty sure y'all have to know that they ask us questions in this audition process.
Mm.
So they want to know your type. They want to know, so because we're here for love, right? So we want to know, who would you even possibly match with. So of course I told them the same thing I'm telling y'all. And I think when I first walked in there, it was more of the younger cast. I was just like, they my age. Now it turned out to not be true, but visually I'm thinking like early 30s, mid 30s. Like, I think I just kind of came down a notch as far as like my energy. I'm thinking, I'm coming in here, I'm really gonna find my man. So I think the first person that really like caught my eye in the category was Phil. I think it was the mature look.
You really liking these mature men?
I don't be playing. This is not.
You really don't. You be really deep in that stuff, man. Okay, so Phil caught your eye. Was there anybody else? I mean, immediately, it's not necessary that later on, but I mean, just that immediate striking. So
as I see everybody, as people are pouring in, not just because it ended up this way, but I'm like, Marvin did catch my eye. Like, I think it was the nice room, clean cut, so he was well put together. I call him G Chris, Nigerian Chris.
Nigerian Chris.
You can't miss that boy's smile. You can't.
Yes,
So,
you can.
I think, I'm trying to think. I think those were my top 3 just immediately before any conversation, any introductions. Those were my top 3
Okay, no, I'm with it. Okay, so Nigerian Chris, Phil. Okay, Marvin, top 3. Okay, yep, yeah, we can make it work. I can make it work. Who then for you was great conversation originally?
So originally, well, I'd actually have to say, wait a minute, who did I say? Phil, Marvin, Chris. I had a really good conversation with all 3 of them. The only one that really stood out amongst those 3, I guess Marvin stood out clearly, with the career path. So that, of course, sets him apart. But as far as like just the vibe of the conversation, the person who really stood out to me and I felt like it was a really good match was Phil and I, because we literally spent our whole conversation like joking back and forth. And I really want to say, like, at one point he was joking on me, and we was like joking on each other back and forth. It wasn't just like, I'm gonna tell a joke, you tell a joke. We're joking on each other. So like, it's really noticeable off bat. He's not easily offended in our conversation, and I'm not offended. So I think it was just like, oh, this is cool. I think in my mind during our conversation, I was a little worried about myself, because I was like, one thing, I had a short list of things that I didn't want to do on the show, still being myself, but I was like, I can't have this happen. And one of the things is I didn't want to get the homie label. And our conversation was so smooth with the ha ha he that I was like, man, he gonna think I'm the homie. But
I understand.
it was funny and effortless with Phil. I had a really good conversation with Chris, and I felt like it was deeper, not to the point where we fallen in love, but it wasn't the, oh, what do you do for a living and what's your favorite color? And it was, we got to like some I need to know kind of things. And I think he received my questions well. We got to like, I found out about him having kids and does he want more? And his cultural background as far as like the arranged marriage thing. Cause I'm like, man, I think you might be one of the guys I'm interested in, but I don't want to waste my time if you can't even do this process. Like if your family's decision is it's more of their decision than yours, like I don't even want to proceed. So we talked about that. So that was really good.
Okay. So Chris and Phil giving some good conversations. It seems you like the people that have got a bit of humor in them.
I do. Because I mean, you
Mm.
think if you goofy all the time, you're gonna get on somebody's nerves if they not engaging in your goofy. So yeah.
Mm. Shame Red couldn't have the same goofiness. Okay, so obviously then you get past that first initial mixer stage. Okay. You're obviously now getting to really connect with people. The focus now is about connecting people, trying to grow, your connections and see where people are really standing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we know that you had a connection with Marvin eventually. But okay, so after that first initial mixer conversation, who then was you continuing your connections with? And was it going anywhere for you after the mixer? So like, was it, I know you spoke to Phil, I know you spoke to Chris. Did anyone else come into the picture, or even Chris and Phil? Did they continue that course of conversation and connection after the mixer?
So the process in general is like it's just all over the place because I feel like it's everybody doing whatever they're going to do. I don't want to say it's them being themselves because I think it was a lot of representatives. And sometimes that's natural, initially, but at some point that has to fall off. Some people it fell off, some people it didn't. But um, if we're speaking on just pursuing people and wanting to know more, digging deeper, I actually didn't have any contact for Chris. So I had to like go around the world to like, hey, who got Chris's number? Um, I think by the time I did that with Chris, like he had already started forming his connections. He was always nice and sweet and everything with me. And I think that's kind of we're on good terms to this day. Like that's my guy. So I think that formed a foundation for something other than romantic because he had already started his journey. It's like I was playing catch up. But from the mansion, the people that I entertained conversations with would have been Marvin. um, Phil and I exchanged messages. Marie and I, Herbert and I, um, we was talking. We was getting to know. Or let me say, I was asking the questions that I wanted to know because it's. I think my mindset was this is an accelerated process. I wasn't so much worried about the eliminations. I just was like, time is of the essence. Like
No,
we
yeah.
have nothing extra to pull from. So um, I think leaving the mansion with these contacts or the mansion brunch 2 times that the cast is all together in the beginning, um those conversations started, and the ones that needed to fall off, they fell off. And it wasn't anything bad, it just was like you got a lot of energy going over this direction and it's not right here. For me, I'm really big on not wasting time and nobody wasting mine. So I never took
Mm,
it personally. Maybe if this was like more real life and not a show, and I'm not saying this, the show interactions weren't real. I think if that happened in real life, I'd be like, oh, you just gonna ghost me? But because everybody's dating everybody, I never took it personally. I was like, oh, there has to be some connection somewhere else. And instead of us just like formally saying, hey, I'm talking to such and such, I think it just fell off. So the last man standing was Marvin. And even before everybody else fell off, we did spend most of my time was with Marvin, spent with Marvin on the phone. And, the few times that we do get together as groups, we always gravitated towards each other. So um, I think it did what it needed to do with the other guy.
Mm. So Phil connection, it kind of just dwindled off. Did you feel like it just dwindled off in the
Yeah,
end?
so Phil and I actually had a group date together. And when I got there, it was actually myself and Jessica. And, we had some little small talk. And I was just like, man, so I invited Phil, I invited Marvin. And she was just like, oh, okay. I can see Marvin. What's up with you and Phil? And I was just like, well, I think we vibe because he's so silly and he jokes a lot. And she was just like, oh, does he? No, I think I said, is he funny? And she was like, is he? And I thought she was being funny. Like, no, he's not funny at all. But what she was saying was like in her interactions with Phil, he was like serious. Like they only talked about like deep, serious things. So we got basically bounced that information off of each other. Like I was starting to get worried at a point, like, can Phil be serious? And she wants
Mm.
to loosen up. So it was kind of like, okay, well, we know you got it in you. Let's see if more of that comes out. And I think in my one-on-one conversations with Phil, things were happening in his life that were very serious. And I think one of the things was he was dealing with loss. So here
Mm-hmm.
I come,
Yeah.
this fixer caretaker person, and I'm just like, hey, I know people handle things differently, but if you need to talk, I'm here. And I think he was grateful for that interaction. Not that he owed me anything, but just, appreciative for it. But at that point, I don't know who his other connections might have been, but they were starting to grow elsewhere. And I think a lot of stuff just went from you see the little dots to nothing is coming after those dots. And that's what ended up happening with Phil and I.
Mm. Man, that's not easy. That's not easy. Okay. So then it was obviously left with Marvin. But before we get to Marvin, obviously connection, you had obviously a little bit of a run-in.
Who had a run
The
in?
infamous the infamous run-in, You went to paint the town red and it turned into a situation. So I need to know what happened with this red situation. I'll tell you why. Because when I reviewed it, I really was looking at your body language. Like more than what you were saying, it was body language.
Okay.
And in that first scene where you were talking about, red and etc., you were literally almost running away in your seat. Like your whole body was like this. You had your shoulder up like this. Like, baby, you was running. Like you was a goner. You were road running. And so I want to know from your perspective, where did this situation with Red start going wrong? Because it just I don't know. It just I want to be able to understand it from your perspective. You know what I mean?
Okay. So where did it start going wrong? I'm going to do my part, do myself justice by
Okay.
being honest. Okay.
Mm.
Clearly I've had a lot to review over, all these months of what's been being said and conjecture by viewers. And it's not like bad stuff, but just people like, where did this come from? So of I knew of him prior to the show. It's ooh, okay, hold on. Let me take a sip. Hold on.
Just click
Okay.
my glasses so I can
So
see well.
I knew of him. It's not because
Hmm.
he dated a friend of mine. It's not what else have people said? We never dated. Um
Okay.
I never met him in person. So like
Mm.
it's just literally things that I heard. And they
Hmm.
weren't good things.
Okay.
So coming into the process, like knowing that I'm on the cast at this point and coming into the process, I also knew he was. And I came in with the mindset, came into knowing I'm a cast member now. I came in saying I was warned. I was literally told, like, do not cross that person's path. Do not speak. Don't do it. And there was a part of me that said, like, I'm finna be on TV. That's not gonna make sense. Like, you can't just like, and this is an elimination kind of show. I've watched this show before. That's putting me in a real bad spot to be like, don't talk to me. Bye. you have to have a reason. So walking into the mansion, I was like, okay, I'm getting ready to meet all these new people, and I know at least one person that's going to be here. I really knew more than that, but I had figured out more than that. So walking in, I had a change of heart, because at this point it's just he say, she say. So I say, that's not really fair. I believe, now let me be very clear. I believe everything that I was told. I trust my source, right? So I'm not second guessing what I was told, but I was just like, I'm one of those people that need to see it for myself. And maybe that's part of the risky mindset too. But I'm like, nah, I gotta see it. You can't just tell me. So earlier in the day, not what y'all saw, earlier in the day, he approached me, and I'll give him this. He didn't come on as strong as y'all saw in the scene that aired, but he just was like, hi, nice to meet you, and normal stuff, right? But my mind is thinking what I've been told. I literally had to just breathe and clear my mind and say, let's listen. Let's see if whatever he does or says matches up to what you've been told. And it's like all the boxes was getting checked. It was getting checked. And it was literally like more of what you guys saw on the show, like oh, I do this, and I know this person, and I got this, and that's a turnoff for me. If we're just going based on, let's take away any prior knowledge, that's a turnoff for me, because I've had really good jobs, high paying jobs. I've had men who were high earners, and I'm not putting everybody in a box, but I'm like, those are actually some of my worst experiences. Now, let's be clear. I'm not trying to date somebody broke, but I'm like, that doesn't faze me, because I'm like, the love doesn't have a price on it. The things that I want can't be bought, and I can't be bought. So it was just like, oh, here we go. That's one of the things I was told. This is another thing. This is another thing. So I was just like, oh, okay. Now there was a goofy side of him that came out, or a joking side. Let me just say he was cracking jokes. And those might have been some of his better moments to get aired, if I'm being honest, because the rest just wasn't it. But I'll say he started cracking jokes, and I'm just jumping in, because now I'm like, I know it's settled now. It's a firm no, because I have that confirmation now. But he said something, and I think I eventually asked him, like, what do you do? And I think the first thing he said was, he's a comedian. And I was like, oh, okay, so that explains why we joking back and forth or whatever. And I was like, okay, so why are you single then? And he was like, I just really feel like a lot of people can't handle, my lifestyle or whatever. And I don't even think he was bragging. I think he just was literally answering the question. And I was like, oh, they say that's a thought job. That's a thought job. That might be why. He laughed. He laughed. Like, so it was like, that was put out before the sun set. If y'all think about that scene that you guys saw, that's at night. So fast forward to that scene, and he walks up, and I'm like, I feel like the first conversation was okay. But thank the Lord for Marvin, because he came over there and cut our conversation short and introduced himself. So that's how that one ends. But for the scene that you guys see on TV, he walks up very strong and confident. Like, that first conversation must have been amazing. And not necessarily on my end, just maybe he thought it was a mutual connection. So that body language that you see, and he's like, I know you've been over here thinking about me and all that. And I'm like, no, I haven't. No, I for sure have not. That's kind of where that's what you guys are seeing, because I'm already in my head knowing, like, it's a no. In that first conversation, I have told you everything, but we will not be a connection, right? So, and I feel like that might have been in the show's concept way, that might have been a dangerous thing to do, because everybody else is still being nice and hoping that they made a good enough impression. I'm telling you off top, it's a no. So when he mentions the stigma of my lifestyle again, when I say, because you got a thought job, I'm referring back to that first conversation where I had already mentioned thought job, and we laughed. So I felt like it kind of hit home that second time. And he was just like, wait a minute, are you saying this about me? Or are you just still saying, like, the industry? Like, what are you saying? And I just was like, I'm over it at this point. We're closer to the end of the filming day. This has been a long day. I'm not gonna keep dodging you. Like, I'm seeing him throughout the process, and I'm going the opposite direction. somehow or another, and it might have been production, I don't know, because they they got the ears, they trying to figure out who's doing what, and I just feel like I got cornered back at that table, and then you guys get what y'all saw. And it really was like I was playing, and I appreciate the fact that people really was like, she's joking, he can't take a joke. But I'm gonna be honest to say there was a part of me that was like, what can I say that will make you move? Like what can I say? And I'm like, it didn't make him move. I will say that, like, it ended the way that it ended on the show, but there was a lot in between. That conversation went on for a while. It did, and I just was like, I don't have nothing else in me other than to just get up and walk off. But at that point, like, everybody else was like paired up. I had already covered my ground as far as talking to everybody, so I was just like, I don't really have nowhere to go. I don't have nobody else to talk to. So yeah, that's what y'all see.
Okay, okay, okay. So this source,
Mm-hmm.
of course, you can't tell us who the source is. I don't expect that. But this source obviously released information that instantly changed your perception of Red before you actually had met him
Mm-hmm.
and could see him. Now, of course, if you're friends, people are going to release things all the time. Like, it
Yeah.
is what it is. But it changed it to such a point that, like, you didn't want to have the interaction with him. And yet you're stuck in that same place having to deal with him anyway. And it's like, yeah, go on.
Well, no, I was just gonna say, and I think I don't think I would. I mean, I guess looking at social media now, I might. There's a piece of me that feels like I would say I might do things differently, but I think I might have still ended up in the same boat. Not on the thought job, train, but I think people's reaction would have still been negative, and I think his reaction, or the way he expresses himself online, might still be the same, because I think the root of it, and I mean this from the most humble place possible, is that it wasn't a long enough time for him to have to deal with that rejection. Like, it was an immediate no for me. So I think once I, gave off that energy, he's like, based on what? Like, I don't understand. I need to know. I need to know. And I couldn't give him anything more. I'm just like, I think my mind tells me, if somebody, I'll give you this example. And if you haven't noticed, I try not to say people's names if it's not good, because I try not to give that energy. But I will say, another male cast member has mentioned me quite a bit in his a lot of his he's mentioned everybody but who he needed to be talking about. Let me put it that way. He was the only man who did not approach me at the mansion, or really anytime after that. I think it would have been easy for me to take it personally. Like, first of all, I laid baby hair and got this brown dress on. Like, you need to come talk to me. But I read that a totally different way. I took that as, it's 10 men, 10 women, and you continuing to walk past me means there's something that you're just not interested in me. And I didn't take it personal. I just thought, like, your interest lies elsewhere. And I just kept it moving. I didn't take that as like rejection, or like, I just didn't take it personal. I think on the other end, for me to be like, no, I know you think you're funny, or you think you got this, or possess that, I'm just supposed to gravel after you. Like, I never had that reaction. So to get turned down, maybe that's more of the root of it.
Now, Eunik, who the heck are you talking about?
Oh, the other guy I mentioned?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, we at the end of the show, baby. Talk your talk, baby.
The one that's in the sunken place. Mm-hmm. I've seen a lot of strange things. I ain't never seen it to that level. She got him good. Think. Please think. But yeah, even though apparently the interactions, however few interactions, I left an impression, good or bad. I don't know how, but he I got this thing about saying, like, I could not like you. I won't lie on you. I won't lie. So I just have to be honest and say, out of all 10 men, he was the only one who did not approach me, try to interact, try to flirt, to a certain extent. Because I think there's a level of some people wanted to, like, oh, I got to play this game so I can make it to the end. If he was banking on making it to the end, he definitely was not counting on me to do it. He was willing to risk it all by not approaching me. And I just didn't take it that way. I just was like, oh, he not interested. It's someone else that he likes or is feeling. So I didn't take it personally. I don't know how we got to this point, but like he says, it's all love.
It's okay.
It's all love.
You didn't have enough. You didn't have enough meat on your bones, but
Maybe
for
so.
him, he likes a type. Okay.
And
Okay.
for me to be this shape and size and don't be going to the gym, and that was the reason he reaching, because I know this people don't be in the gym, so I'm so lost.
He likes meat. He likes meat.
And that's what he has to stand on. That he needs to stand on.
Yeah.
That ain't nothing wrong with that. But you got to match. You got to match up. Either we in the gym or we not in the gym. And here's what I'll say about that, because this is not a body shaming thing. I absolutely love myself. I'm happy with everything God gave me, and everybody is not supposed to be my size. I think as long as you are not, and still love yourself, but there's a difference between what we physically see and what's affecting our organs. So if you ain't at the 600-pound life part and you still moving, you got that confidence, do you? So I'm not hating on anybody's body type, height, shape, size, anything. And if somebody loves you, I'm definitely not hating on it. Like, go for what you want. And if you don't want me, please let me know off top. Do not delay. Do not drag me along. No, I want zero parts in that. No, sir.
I'm not tea. Okay. Okay. So wait, come back to red.
Okay.
Okay. So obviously, clearly you heard something, right? So what is it exactly that you heard? So we understand why you decided that, you know what, I got to stay away.
So, I feel like it would be really childish for somebody to say something like, I'm trying to think of something that's like top surface. Like, it could be a big issue, but maybe it wouldn't be. Just depends on the two people. Like, maybe he's flashy. Like, that might be a bad thing to somebody and not to the other person. I wouldn't count you out based on something like that. Now, I got in some hot water, so this I do want to clear up. And if
by all means, clear it up.
If people's opinions are solid, or their stance is solid in this, then they're gonna be mad at me again based on what I'm about to say. I had already shared with him multiple times. I was just like, whatever this is, and clearly I know I'm not gonna say it with these mics on. I'm not gonna say it on camera. I was asked by other cast members. I was asked by production. I was asked by everybody. And I was just like, what it involves, this goes back to earlier with, like, I want to tell what involves me, because I don't want to include people who are not a part of whatever I'm talking about. So I end up saying, and I'm only repeating this because I said it at the reunion. It got to the point where I'm just like, he was already aware that it had something to do with his ex-wife, that relationship and how that went, and his children. When I said it involves his ex-wife and his children, then somebody who needed extra time on camera was like, children are off limits. I'm only giving you guys what it's about.
I agree.
Telling you what it is, just so you won't just be like, okay, well, why'd you bring it up? I didn't bring it up. Y'all keep asking, so I'm telling you, okay, this is the topic. But because kids are off limits as a mother of two, I'd have a major problem with my ex if he, especially on a platform like this, brought up our kid. They are to be protected, and that is near and dear to my heart. And this is not a campaign, because I do care what people think, but I don't care what people think. Like, this is my truth.
Release the truth, yeah.
Like, kids are off limit, hands down, and I'm no exception. I feel like if I had dug deeper into it, what I had to say is not about the kids, if that makes sense. It's about him and them. But for me, that's too close to home. And I felt like because it involves them, it wasn't something to be sharing, especially you're not even my connection. So, and I definitely don't want to say it and then it comes off like I'm just really trying to get camera time or trying to drag you on TV behind a thought job situation. So I just used my own judgment and I was like, you know what? If people are like feeling some type of way because they can't get the tea, I'm just gonna have to get dragged behind it. And I don't care because I'm like, I know what it is. It was multiple times that I offered him, and that's kind of how we get to the second conversation at the brunch. And then of course the blow up at the hoedown. Another thing that happened even when he gets eliminated is I don't know if you guys recall, I think it shows that we're standing like in two groups. We're actually standing like in a horseshoe shape. And I'm on the tail end closer to the door. So he goes around and he daps everybody up and hugs them. It was a really weird moment because we got this back and forth, like we just got done getting into it earlier in the day before he gets eliminated. And I was like, I don't know what he finna do. Like, is he gonna throw shade? Is he gonna shake my hand? Like, what's gonna happen? He walks up to me and hugs me. So I'm just like, this whole situation, from what I was told, I'm not shocked as to how we got to this on Instagram and Facebook. So it's another box that got checked. This situation has been deaded multiple times. The DM that he sent, it was like, no hard feelings on my end. The text message that I got, no hard feelings on my end. And not me. This is him saying it's no hard feelings on his end. What y'all have seen on social media has been me in real life. I have been completely quiet. So I think that's what makes me say it goes back to the rejection, because it's like, okay, yeah, I want to dead this situation with her, but this episode is going to air that I was shooting my shot hardcore. So I try not to take it personally. And a lot of it, I'm not even aware of what he said. I can imagine, because I'm just like, I stay out the chats. I stay out of, all the back and forth, because I'm like, oh my God, I got petty in me. I do. I'm not going to sit here and say I am just Michelle Obama, because I am not. I am far from it. But I think that's a part that I just didn't. I wanted to do something different. I definitely did. And I'm like, you can have all that by yourself. Because if we go back and forth, it's never going to end. So I'll be whatever. You can say whatever. It's all facts. It's all true. If you let me tell it, just whatever you want to do, you got the floor. You got it. One thing I'm happy that came out of that is people saw through it. And I felt like I might have been doing more harm than good if I addressed it, especially when it first happened. I was just like, no, let it unfold. I know how this journey went for us. So let's let him do him, and we'll see. It'll all come out. So I really felt uncomfortable discussing details for the world. And if you take the kids out of it, I understand, his ex is an adult, but she didn't sign up for this. We don't have any waivers from her. She didn't say, hey, it is what it is. All's fair. So I'm just like, I also wouldn't want anybody to do it to me. So, and it's really nothing bad about her. All of this is more so about him. It just involves those people. So I felt like that was the mature, classy thing to do. Cause I'm like, I'm funny. I crack jokes, but I'm a lady too. I got a little sense. So
You got a little something, something.
a little something.
Okay, I get parts of it. You know what I mean? Like you didn't want to expose everything because it involved other parties per se, and not just Red. Um,
Okay. So let's say this, because clearly my story is my story, so I can talk about it. But
mm,
some of the things that I've heard were we just never gonna get the kids part, so y'all can just X that
that's
part.
fine. I'll leave that part.
But it was just, there's two sides to every story, especially when we're talking about relationships. There's always gonna be a bad guy, and generally people are not gonna agree of who caused this to fail. There's more people saying that he was the reason. And weirdly enough, and I think that's what really sealed it during the first conversation. He had brought up to me that and this is me putting it together, so this is not verbatim. He said something like, people always say that you was the one who was cheating when it was really them in the room or wherever this cheating occurred. But it was like real switch places. because it's like everything he said, and we weren't even like talking about like, are you a cheater? Or like, I let him just lead. I wanted to hear what he would say and do naturally. So when he brought that up, it really made me be like, are you trying to do damage control? Because of course, another thing I mentioned to him in both conversations was like, I think I know you from somewhere. Or, I've heard of you, or what, whatever. And it was like, I felt like he was trying to get ahead of whatever this rumor might have been, or these rumors might have been. So I didn't like it. It felt like damage control. And it just was we got to check another box. We got to check another box. So it's been that infidelity thing. And I'm going to be honest. Like I said earlier, I don't want to bring my baggage into a new situation, but my antennas are going to be up. If somebody is like, no, I can show you and tell you that this really is this not just my word against his, like, that's one of my lessons learned. I'm not doing it again. And let's be clear, I don't believe, and maybe I'm just, an optimist, but I don't believe once a cheater, always a cheater.
Okay.
But I'm like, but everything else it seemed to be right on point. So I'm like, maybe he is at a point where he's ready to find his forever thing and do right by it. I'm just saying, like, some of those things seem to the extreme and seems quite excessive. And I think whether I need to heal or not, I'm not, I wasn't looking to go back down that road. Now, just because I was not aware of anybody else's infidelities, and I'm talking about, other cast members, that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. But I'm like, I didn't say I'm going to do this journey and jump after the first person who's a cheater or who has like, you might be the last person on my list if I'm aware of it ahead of time. You might be, and you are. So I'm like, I'm not going to apologize for that. I'm proud of myself for not coming straight in there and doing what I said I was going to do, which is, no, thank you. Like, I let him do him, and he going to do him to the end of the day, to the end of every day. He can't shake it. But it's all love.
Fair enough. I ain't mad at it. I hear it. Okay, fair enough. I mean, that makes a bit more sense, obviously, in terms of the situation. Okay, so obviously, you guys obviously. I mean, did you guys manage to sort it out? Though, are you guys cool now, or is it still frosty at this point?
I can't speak for what he's thinking and feeling. I haven't spoken to him. Based on it, like based on the tone of his post and that energy that's coming from social media. Fortunately, I have not been in the same rooms with him. So yeah, I've just moved on with life, and I control what I can control, and that's me and what I respond to, post about. um for anybody who's paying attention, I'm into my TikToks, and I tried to do my
Mhm.
best not to let those have a little undertone. But if you know, you know. I feel like it's just wasted energy. I don't I have other things to be like concerned about. And I know everybody does, but I'm like, just things at the on the home front that I'm like, I gotta put that energy back over here. So he can have it.
So you're saying basically,
Look, I can always tell though because again, I can always tell when somebody, and it's not always him. Just let's be aware. I'm clear on that. It's not always him. I can tell
what
when
did he do on social media? Did I miss it?
huh?
Did I miss what he did on social media?
Oh, you didn't miss anything. No. But is there
Oh, I thought
not?
he did.
Yeah.
I thought he did. I thought he did something on social media. Did I miss it?
From what I understand, it's a lot of posts. I have been tagged in a couple of them. I guess he thought I didn't know about the first few. I'm like, I'm aware. I don't know what you
Oh,
want to do or say.
he tagged you. Oh, he tagged you in.
Yeah. That's. I'm glad you asked the question the way you did. So, I want to say that was right before the show premiered. Um, I believe that someone had looked us up, as I feel like they did, probably all of the cast, and they went online and was like, she's not a producer, she's a PA. Now, where they got the information, I don't know. Now, oh, sorry. So a PA, for those of you guys who don't know, that's a production assistant. That's not really the highest person on a set. Um, so I think he might have, I don't think he went and looked at it. I think he saw that comment and took it and ran with it. The problem with it is the average person doesn't graduate high school and go straight to the operating table. Like it's levels to this. Like you gotta take these steps. So there is absolute accuracy in that I have been APA. Unfortunately for him, I've worked with other networks other than OWN. So it's kind of one of those things that, unfortunately for you, I got the proof. So I didn't respond in that sense. What ended up happening was somebody took a screenshot from a show that I did over on Fox Soul and was like, well, she might have been one, but she ain't no, like, you know. So it was like silly stuff that even if I wanted to go back and forth, it wasn't something to even address. Cause I'm like, it's been a couple situations where people have tried to like prove their point or their innocence or their status or whatever. I didn't feel the need because I'm like, wherever they found that PA information, all you had to do was keep scrolling. You saw what you wanted to see. So it's been a lot of failed attempts. So I'm like, it never was anything that drew me in. And I think if I'm being honest, and this ain't gonna make me look the greatest, but I'm trying to give y'all the real. I think initially it started out from a mature place. I think I was just like, I'm not gonna do this. I'm not gonna give him the satisfaction. After a while, it became funny. Not gonna lie, I was just like, he really gonna keep this going. So it's like it's kind of the petty in me that I can tell when someone has said something because then my stories go from their normal views to what is Eunik finna say. I'm like, nah, I didn't say anything. It's just still sunshine and rainbows over here, and it shall remain.
So basically, he was throwing indirect shots. Basically, is what you're telling me.
I can't say. I mean, I feel like if you're tagging somebody, it can't be indirect. I feel like a lot of it was very direct. I also know that he got a lot of heat for some things, or just I know they've discussed his appearance. I know I've heard them talk about his career choice, and maybe it wasn't the right one, talent wise. And somehow or another, even though they're addressing, and I mean, like, viewers are addressing him, somehow I still come up in it. I'm like, no, address what they saying about you. This don't have nothing to do about me. Like, I'm not involved in this. But I think it's that deflection. And either you gonna clap back or you not. And I choose to do the latter. I choose to do the latter. Mm-hmm.
I hear it. I hear it.
That's the right thing to do.
I hear it.
I think everyone should, don't follow me, but try a page out of that book and see how it make you feel. I feel whole. I feel whole. I want everybody hearing this.
Oh gracious. Okay. Well, I think you've gathered him up from the ground to the heavens, to be honest. So in a classy way.
Well, thank you.
It's all right. Okay. Okay. So let's talk about your actual collection because with Marvin, with Marvin, because listen, hot wax, stags, feather dusters out here, and all sorts of stuff. Now, it was interesting because you said someone had a thought job, and I know that now. I think you were trying to shoot the person at the time, so that's probably why you said it. But you said a thought job, and then we saw you go to Marvin, who really has a thought job. I just want to make that very, very clear.
Let's make sure that it's clear on both sides of this split screen. I do not deny it. It didn't. So I think you are clear that this was never about somebody's way of life, earning, as far as way of life, as far as career. This was never about that. And the funniest thing, and then like I know you want to move on to Marvin, but the funniest thing is I've had so many people who thought it was hilarious, who falls in the thought job category, and they've all said they've heard it before. So they thought it was hilarious, and the expectation because he's a comedian, was for him to say something back, whether it was nice and sweet or something like, "Oh, I can't believe you said that." But either way, I'm going to crack a joke back. And I guess they, the world just didn't get that. Maybe, caught him off guard. I don't know. It's something about, I thought it was a thing about like punchlines with jokes. So, I might not can freestyle rap, but I can freestyle joke. So it's a thing.
Did you make some t-shirts on the Thought Job stuff?
I'm sorry?
Did he make some t-shirts? Did you make them t-shirts on Thought Jobs?
Oh, so I am aware that he does have apparel. I don't want to call it a line, but he does have apparel with the phrase on it. And I told him he's welcome at the reunion. He can have.
Did you get your coins?
No, because I have my own brand. It's not a clothing line, but I just I was 31 when I made that comment. I'd make that comment now, so let's be clear. But at 32, and then just also keeping in mind the demographic of this show, I think it's weird for anybody, let's just say average, closer to 40 plus, to walk around with a Thought Job shirt. So I don't know who that target audience is, but I want everyone to succeed, and I do mean everyone. So I will say here today, if you are at all interested in a Thought Job shirt, I'm glad that I brought it to the forefront, but I am not selling them. If you guys want to figure out who is and, who has those available, it's not hard to figure that out. Do your research and please cop one. It does come in many colors, and I believe it's short sleeve, long sleeve, and hoodies. Don't know if he has any messenger bags yet, but please go support that. Mm-hmm. Somehow or another, it'll always be tied to me. But no, to answer your question, I didn't take advantage of any of the coins on that, even though it is available. So if you guys want to snatch that up, you sure can. But I didn't want to be tied to it. I like to, I was always taught, like, if you have an idea, don't say it out loud. Take care of that paperwork first. It's still out there. It's still out there. So, but yeah, I wasn't interested. And just to be clear, I didn't make that up. I didn't make up the phrase. I've heard that about the Thought Job and 87 regular. Maybe it's just where I grew up and the lingo here, but I'm like, I'm glad that everybody enjoyed my phrases, my little 1-2s, but I didn't make any of this stuff up. This is regular vocab for me. I Miss Merriam-Webster apparently, and I'll take that. I'll take it. Kojo, do not laugh, do not cry, because you look like you're struggling. Okay, I'm sorry. Let me put my hands back. I'm sorry. I think at this
point, my days.
This is sad. Okay, my connection. Sorry, I will throw somebody off in a second.
Oh. Y'all be funny. Ooh.
Ooh. I'm funny. I'm not a comedian.
Let me come back to my senses.
I'm nobody's comedian. I told you I got to think about lanes. I stay in my lane. That's probably best for all parties. Marvin, I'm sorry. Marvin, he has a Thought Job. We're clear about it. I'm sorry. So yeah,
Marvin. Yes, Marvin.
He does have a Thought Job. He knows that.
So what? Wait, what? See, this is going back to my, like I said, that it feels like this rebel situation again. Why Marvin again? Now I get that he's older, but there ain't no stability in this situation when he wants to be a stag.
So my connection with Marvin had nothing to do with age, because I mean Marvin is older, but clearly based on my examples, it ain't that big of a gap. I did find Marvin attractive initially, and our conversation went really smooth with the hi, how are you? Shortly after that, it just was a natural progression that I think we both felt comfortable asking, like, what do you do? So I told him what I do. And then when he told me, alarm bells went off in a good way, though, because my past experiences relationship wise were 87 regular. And I just told myself that, not that that's the most important thing to me, but I'm marriage minded. I definitely want somebody who loves me, respects me, is going to be honest, and all those things, again, that money can't buy. But if I got to add something in, that sex life is very important to me. So that's what drew me into Marvin. And mind you, I don't know all the details. He just says he's an erotic author. That to me made me assume, and I could have been wrong, clearly I wasn't, but that he was at least open minded. Now, oh, I'm so glad we're talking about this, because what I want everyone to know, and you showed me a scene where this is not accurate. Um, all those conversations that Marvin had with who was that? Lee, and um I want to say he had a conversation with Jessica, like, in more detail. We didn't talk about any of that stuff. Like, I think he just said, I'm an erotic author. I don't even know if initially he said I'm into BDSM. Now, I know a little bit about what that is, but I think people, take that to whatever extreme they take it within the lifestyle. So in my head, I'm just like, oh, okay, I'm thinking handcuffs, I'm thinking whips, I'm thinking what they would consider basic. So to watch the episodes back, because y'all got to keep in mind, I'm not aware of all this. To watch those episodes back and hear like some of the stuff he said to Lee and to Jessica, I'm just like, wait, are we talking about the same person? Like, clearly we are based on the topic, but we talked about Marvin and his 5-year plan, wanting to move to the Caribbean. We talked about his daughter. We talked about like regular things. Is that what made initially connected me to him? No, it was the erotic Arthur thing. It was the BDSM. I'm taking top surface information, thinking like, okay, he a freak. Like, I like that. Cool. And I'm not ashamed to say it now. I wasn't, clearly not ashamed to say it then. But the only time that I kind of caught wind of like what he had been saying to the other women was, I want to say that's at the wine bar. And then one of the ladies was like, yeah, and he's a stag, and he's a stag. I guess I really didn't have a reaction to it because I didn't know what that was. So I'm just like, okay, well, if different strokes for different folks. So I'm like, I didn't hear anything that was like cause for alarm to me. It kind of was like, oh, that's part of that freaky stuff that I'm not mad at. So it was never anything that made me be like, oh, he's just, here for sex, or like, I don't know. It just, maybe it's because we had these regular conversations, but then now when it's airing, it's like, nah, this is freaky Marvin, like
It's
freaky.
wild. Hmm.
Yeah. So I'm like, I
Did you,
don't,
did you know what a stag was at the time
I didn't, when we had the
when he
first
said it?
one, but I think, I want to say I knew what it was prior to me getting eliminated. And I think
Mm.
even though, we have the explanation at the reunion and all that as to, the decline, I think the more I learned, we kind of got out of that normal conversation and some more discussions were taking place. That wasn't the decline. Let me just put it that way. But I did learn some of these terms before I was eliminated. And I think that's what led me to be open and interested in Christopher when he came. Because I was just like, Marvin is cool and I still feel like we're in a good place. But now here's Christopher. And that's more like naturally, without forcing it, my speed. So yeah, I didn't know a lot about a lot of these things while I was pursuing Marvin and Marvin was pursuing me.
Okay, so you're saying basically when you guys were talking, you guys were having some real conversations, and it wasn't necessarily, as focused as we saw on the show about the dungeon, the sex, everything like that. I
Mhm.
mean, there was conversation, but not as in so much of a focus and in depth about those things like you saw with him saying he asked worships and all that with Lee. It wasn't that kind of conversation you guys were having. You're having more in-depth conversation.
I think the reason for that is not that I took control of our conversations, but for me, once he had already brought up, what he does, and just that whole lifestyle, I didn't. I thought, apparently I was wrong, but I thought I didn't need details. I'm like, okay, so you're not vanilla for sure. I need to know that. Now I know, let's talk about other things. So I think I steered the conversation, not running from it, but just steered it in a different direction. So a lot of times when we would talk on the phone or, just in person, it was about other things. And I think because they were good conversations, especially on camera, like no one tried to control or redirect the topics. It was just like, no, this is good. We're going somewhere. We're diving deeper. So I think, and mind you, I don't not blame. I don't judge him and his lifestyle at all. I have now learned that there are a lot of things that he's into that is a firm no for me. He's
Oh,
still
okay.
he's still that. So yeah, let me clear that up. I'm not into all that now. I am very
You're not into the stag thing.
I'm not. And I think it's because, I mean, for multiple reasons, but one of those things is like the person that I would be into, I need you to kind of have like a selfishness about me. So like the person I would be into wouldn't be willing to share. I would be paranoid that something might pop off if we try if we
Mm.
try anything even close to that. So I'm like, that wasn't for me. It was something else that I was like, nah, I can't. You have fun with that, but like I can't get into that. But
Mm.
even with all that being said, like that wasn't the decline. With Marvin and I just felt like, I don't know, it was just a disconnect. Like our personalities wasn't going to be long term. I felt like because he's so sweet, I felt like it might end up being a situation where it's always like, okay, yes, babe, whatever you want. I can't, that's not going to be a good setup for me. So I'm like,
Mm.
maybe that's my problem, but I'm like, it just wasn't going to work long term. So I'm like, yeah, to have somebody like Christopher step in and it's like, oh no, because this is what I'm gonna do. Out of Mississippi and the countryside come out. I was just like, no, this is more for sure. This is more certain. This is more structured in the way that I needed to.
Mm.
So yeah, I was not aware, y'all. I'm down,
Okay. So
but
okay. So we're saying in a sense that his that you need someone who's a bit more assertive in and more putting you as priority in a sense, like making being focused on you and you only, not in a bad way, but in a way of just like their
I,
focus isn't divided.
it definitely can't be like um like a 50-50 split for sure. I mean, like, people are into different things. I've had my experiences with different things. We won't go into detail, but I'm like, it's a
Of
time and a
course.
place, but that's a conversation that needs to be had between whoever is the priority in the relationship, the man and the woman or whatever the dynamics are. Um if it's myself and my significant other, if we're adding somebody, we are adding somebody, we're on that same page. Or if we're not adding somebody, we are not adding somebody. And I feel like that's not something I was interested in doing on a regular basis. Like, it it was very clear. And I feel like everybody said this as far as like, I appreciate his honesty, but no, I just appreciate his honesty, period. And at this
Mm.
point, based on that forthcoming disclosure, I can make a decision. So clearly, I'm still attending events and not the most extreme ones, but I'm like, none of that stuff phases me. I don't think anybody can judge him or me or anybody else who either entertains it or just goes to support or whatever. I'm like, that's the least of my concerns. So a lot of times, I mean, he does his live readings. There's open mic poetry. Now, of course, that is
Okay.
based on certain topics. Let's be clear.
Mm.
But I mean, for anybody who's like into, I know this is gonna sound silly, but it is a lot of arts involved.
Mm.
Even see, anything that might not be for kids. Like people
Mm.
are good with
Plus 18.
and yeah. So I'm like, it's unfortunate for anybody who's closed minded. Maybe you get to a certain point in the night where you like, okay, I gotta go. But
Mm.
a lot of it starts off like real very interesting. It's still interesting, let's be clear, but yeah, a lot of people who are closed minded missed out on a really good night.
So is it more that you're intrigued to learn more? Is this more of an observational intrigue, or is this something that, you know what? low key, unique, you bit of a freak. I just, is it that? Because I was wondering, I'm trying to understand. Is it for the fact that you're more intrigued for educational purposes? You want to grow, you want to understand it more, or is this because I'm secretly a bit of a freak yourself? I'm just trying to understand. You know,
Is this for the people? You want the people? You asking for the people?
I'm asking you generally because I'm trying to understand what your interest is here with Marvin in general. Because
No, so
it's like
that's why I said
he's a freak in a good way. You know what I mean?
right. And here's the
Yeah.
thing. I didn't know it was low key. I thought it was very obvious high key that that was my speed. Now, of course, like I said, watching the episodes back, it was a little bit more revealed than I was aware of. That does not
Mm,
bring me back down to vanilla or 87 regular. I'm like, no, I like what I like. And I will say, I don't know everything. I ain't that experienced. But I
mm,
am open to a lot of things. And, I feel like in anything in life, like if you have not experienced, now there are some things that you don't have to try to know. Maybe you shouldn't do that. But for me, I don't go to these type of events or put myself in these type of environments, which is not every day or every weekend. Let's be clear. Um, but it's not for research purposes. Like, yeah, I've seen some stuff that I was like, I didn't know that was a thing. But I guess I just find out in those moments. But there is a level of intrigue there. There are some things also that intrigue me that I still would never do. But it's not because it's wrong or, whatever level of judgment. It's just like that looks interesting, but I don't that's not for me.
So what is this 87 regular that you keep mentioning? This
That's
87 regular. What does it mean?
so okay, gas. That's like the most used. What type of gas? 87 regular.
I have
So it's
no
like
clue because
when
I'm
you
in the
when you
UK,
level
but
up
okay.
to, premium and what is it? I'm an unleaded person for my vehicle, so I don't really know the other ones. Diesel and all those. Like 87 is probably the most used. So when I say 87 regular, it's literally like that's common. That's
Mm,
sick. That's you know something that you often see or hear. So that's why I say when Marvin said he's into BDSM, he's erotic author, that is no longer 87 regular. Clearly, we heard that from none of the other 19 people. So that kind of set him apart in that sense. And clearly, it was not for everybody. It was something that intrigued me, and it did what it needed to do. Apparently, it didn't do what it needed to do all the way to the end. But I'm like, no, it created a connection and a match that was really genuine. Um, and I think that was the basis. I think that's where it started, and it created a listening ear for me to want to even know more about Marvin. So yeah, he's not 87 regular. Oh,
mm, okay.
I do want to address this wax thing
Go
because
for
I,
it.
I don't do a lot of damage control, and this is how this looked. And Marvin did not pour wax on me. This was a
I
whole.
mean, if he did, is that bad?
Well, I just want to be clear because Marvin. Well, I mean, she was there. So Marvin has a girlfriend. She was there.
Oh, okay.
They are a really good pair. I see how they are a thing. I am not hating at all because, like I said earlier, I want everybody to win and be happy. Um, so I just wanted to be clear because I really felt like it came across like Marvin just then took me in some room and waxed me down, and that is not the case.
Oh, no,
Um,
no, no.
but I did thoroughly enjoy this wax. And, I don't know what people feel as far as, pain thresholds and all that. And I'm not trying to make this a freaky interview. I'm just saying,
Hey,
y'all
listen,
do,
you can feel free after dark, baby. We talk
y'all
about all
just,
stuff on this channel. You know
y'all
what I
just
mean? If you want to take it there, take
more,
it there. I'll talk about it.
just be more open-minded. It is not
Hmm.
for everybody. When I say it was hot, that was not me being cute. That was hot. It was hot.
Okay.
But after the initial contact, it's actually like a hot stone treatment, like a massage. That's what it felt like. And my back was like soft for at least a month. At least a month.
Mm.
So I'm like, it's therapeutic. You gotta take your mind to a different place. Like if you want to take the freaky out of it, it's still it's like a spa treatment, honestly. People get their hands and feet dipped in wax. It's the same thing. Missing
Let
out.
me ask a question. This you know what? I've never really asked this question on a live, but actually I have on a live, but maybe not in an interview. But let me ask it since we're already here at this point in a conjunctional conversation. We keep mentioning 87 regular.
Okay.
So are we saying that because the way that we kind of mention is almost as if the history we've been experiencing 87 regular, is that what we're trying to say? And that this
Yeah.
wasn't 87 regular? Is that what we're saying? So we're saying, so is it that you are intrigued to find out, explore more when it comes to this area of intimacy, that you want to explore more premium?
Who doesn't want to explore more premium? So let me give more of the definition in this sense of
You
87.
keep me understanding.
I and everybody, y'all can do what y'all want to do. If you happy, stick with that. Um,
Mm. Bring us in.
this is so detailed. Um, I don't want to deal with somebody who's like set in their ways, or not that I'm trying to be in no parking garage, but I'm like let's switch things up, and it doesn't have to be
Mm.
planned. Just be spontaneous. Um,
Okay.
I think from my history, um, to just simply hear somebody is, and maybe it's because of people are afraid of judgment. So to hear him say it so freely that this is his lifestyle, that was a major turning point of just me being intrigued in him, because I'm like, oh, for you to say that so openly, you're far from the norm. Like you're okay with branching out or trying something different.
Mm.
Now that okay, this is
You're
not.
tired of the missions, basically. You're tired of the missions.
I am like, that's weird.
Mm.
And we
Yeah,
too old for
missions
that.
and back doors. We've got to get rid of them. New things.
So I would not know what Marvin is like. Let me also clear that up.
Okay,
Uh,
that's cool. Yeah.
I would not know, but and this is not shade. For all I know, it could just be good for him and his girlfriend. Like she could just be happy with it. But maybe the masses would say it's not good. What intrigued me was the fact that he's willing to think outside the box or just do something outside of the norm. That you If you just give me that, I can take that and run with it. I can't have somebody who is closed-minded. Um, and I mean, and that just put Marvin in my top.
In a
We
different space.
so this is
So the
really
person,
valuable.
the person having the ability to think outside the box, to want to consider different avenues when it comes to intimacy in that form, is attractive for you in a sense. You're
Yeah,
willing to go on that journey with that person in a sense.
yeah. And the thing is, if it doesn't work for me or if it doesn't work for you, we'll know legitimately it's not our thing. But I just feel like for you to just be like, that's not for me, unless it's something extreme and you just, it's like I said, one of those things you don't have to try, then that's different. But to just shut down everything and just have like the same mundane thing over and over, no, that's not my journey. It's not. Mm-mm. It's a setup for failure. Hmm. Not top priority, but it's up there. Let's be
No, it's
real.
hey, listen, I'm not mad at it. You know what I mean? And I think, in all honesty, I'm being a bit facetious, but yes, I mean, there's a need to explore those avenues, and if that's what's important in terms of creating intimacy between you and your partner, which is being open to those experiences,
Mhm.
and doing something different, yeah, of course, I
I
think that's
I
you
think the
know.
worst part about my conversations on screen with Marvin and just watching it back with everybody, it didn't rub me the wrong way, because I'm like, some of the things, and maybe that's just how my mind works, I kind of knew what was coming, like what people might say. One thing I didn't like was the fact that I felt like women could not say things about sex.
Come
um
on, talk about it.
I felt like, for one, we get to a whole episode about non-negotiables. That's a non-negotiable for me, and it might not be for you. And should it be like, should it go above finances, or trust or whatever, your non-negotiables are yours. I feel like I'm going to have the type of conversations with a person where, oh, you're going to know that it is important for you to be honest with me or important for you to do this or do that. I feel like one of those things you might not guess that is really near and dear to my heart is something sexual. You might think you got it going on. I need you to know that I need you to have it going on. And not to say that something might not or
That's
might
right.
happen. Like you don't know if you don't say it. People are not mind readers, and I feel like it's crazy for people to have that expectation. So for me, it wasn't a second thought in my mind to link myself with Marvin. I think a lot of people heard it and maybe they just weren't into it. Like I'll give them that. But I think there's another part of it that made them say, I could never admit this on TV. I'm like, if we are really supposedly here for love and I'm intrigued by it, I'm going to tell the person that is intriguing me that, hey, you did something when you said that. You did. And I'm not gonna shy away from it. Maybe I'm not as forthcoming with details as Marvin might be, but he didn't have to pull that information out of me like, I wonder if she was into this. I wonder if that made her pull back. No, like he knew that okay, now what else we talking about? Because clearly that didn't make me run. If anything, it made me lean in. So it's somebody for everybody. And in that moment, my person was Marvin.
Mm. 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 Mm.
Stop.
No, I mean, listen. Okay, but okay. So, okay, wait. Let's have a real conversation in this space, right? Because this is probably one of the rarest conversations you can have on the internet. Because you rarely get to have these kind of conversations, right? So, like, what is for you? What was that? What's the defining moment that's made you be more open to this spectrum of intimacy in such a way, though? You know what I mean? Like, because like people can say they're open, but like you said, a lot of us are open, but we're not open. You know what I mean? Like I told you, some of us are just missions and back doors. So what is it that's making you be so open in this field and wanting to explore that so much?
So it's not something that I'm just like, oh, let me get on Eventbrite and see what, events are coming up.
Mm,
But I think when you're in a space with creatives, those people are just not like anybody else because our brains just work differently. So, I have a lot of people that I'm connected to who I don't want to say like they're a part of the lifestyle, but they'll invite me to places and I'm like, oh, it's your birthday. I don't care where you say we're going, unless it's something that's going to cause me harm. I'm just going to show up. That openness and that willingness to, just go and show up and support people, even though it might be something against what I would normally do, not against, but, something outside of what I would normally do has exposed me to a lot of things. I've been to some venues prior to Ready to Love and meeting Marvin. So I've seen some things that I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't even know this was that kind of, I've driven past this every day. Didn't know this was here. So I'm like, my train of thought, the way that I think is just an open-minded person. So I'm like, um, again, it's not anything that I'm like, oh, now that I know this, let me go research it. It's just like when the opportunities presents itself, if it's something that I don't want to say supposed to be doing, but I just end up in some of these places and I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, that's not going to be for me. But, oh, wait a minute. I didn't even know that was a thing. Let me know more about that. So I'm like, I don't think it's something that led me there other than just, like I said, being open minded.
mm,
Well,
mm. It's a
wait, well,
conversation for after. It's a
okay.
conversation for after. Okay. Cool. Cool. So okay. So obviously you Marvin didn't work out. He
Mhm.
did kind of explain it, but you kind of explained it a little bit as well. Just to make it very clear, why did you and Marvin literally not work out? What was the reason for it not working out?
Um, I am going to have to, and he's not going to like this, but I'm going to have to say it the way that I said it on the reunion, and it did not air in its entirety. As we all know, Marvin has a girlfriend,
He
and
does.
oh, that was gonna be a strong word. I just really rock with his girlfriend. Like she's cool. Like I said, she's confident. She is not in any way threatened by me, and not just like this ego thing. Like she's secure in their relationship. And every time I'm around her, it's just like always a good time. She's cool with me. So there's no drama, no anything. The issue that Marvin and I have, and it's not a beef, it's just we just agree to disagree. It's the timeline of when that took place. I
Oh.
felt like
Mm.
the math was not mathing. And like I said from the beginning, Marvin is super sweet. And he's not gonna like the fact that I just said that because we good. Maybe we'll hit a little bump in the road because I said this, but it's my truth. Um, he said that he began this after the show or after post his elimination or somewhere in there. I felt like it might have been a little sooner than that. And I'm really big on, just communicate with me. And I guess in this situation, I really took it a certain way because I'm looking at it like maybe the world would see it like you got this one girl on this cast that was like, oh, I'm with it. So that might be the one person that you might want to just take a chance and just be like, hey, I also have somebody already, and I know that's not the format of this show, but I'm just out here. Like, I'm not saying that he was not looking for love. I'm not saying that this was a casual thing for him, but I'm like, let me say it this way. Things happen very rapidly and accelerated really quick with them for my math to not be accurate. Now, again, I'm the same person who got married in 6 months. So things happen. But we agree to disagree with when that began with them. Um, it's not that it was going downhill fast anyway, but I felt like Marvin and I might have still ended up at this place, or even let's say we ended our journey together, and then by the reunion, we still weren't together. So I think it was going to come to the same end, but I feel like he already had something going on. And it would have been okay because I'm like, I don't want to fake it, but I feel like several people have in this process. So I'm like, boy, we could have faked it, but just like fill me in. Like, let me know what's going on. And I felt like I was left in the dark when it came to that. So, and then, fun fact, the only thing I didn't know, I had heard about like all the whispers that the guys have to say about me in the lounge. And, nothing stays in these lounges. So I was privy to all of that before it aired. The only thing I did not know was that Marvin eliminated me. I did not know that. So when I tell you it aired, and I was just like, that one thing I knew for sure is the person who I knew would always say my name wasn't there anymore. So I felt like maybe some damage had been done, from prior to his departure. That okay, now we got to pick a woman, and the only person who's connected to her is Marvin. So maybe I just, I didn't have enough connections. So when I saw that, and it was just like, oh yeah, Eunik is in my top. She's in my top, and I'm like, duh, I know that. That's my connection. What about these non-negotiables, fellas? What y'all? That's Tommy. What about these non-negotiables? And then it's Marvin who's like, well, she I don't know if he said I didn't want to have any more kids or because I couldn't give him a son. Now, here's the thing. I'm very happy if I don't have any more kids. I have 2 daughters. So there's a part of me that would love to have a son. But since I'm not in control of that, my question to Marvin was like, are you on our date? I said, are you the type that would like keep going, just keep trying until you end up with a boy? And he was like, absolutely. That's a firm no for me. And I can't be afraid to lose my connection by, just being honest. So I was just like, no. But even after I was like, no, I can't do that. I was like, we can try once. I said, I'm gonna be a little upset, not upset, but like disappointed if I have another girl. Cause like I could have just stuck with the 2 I got. But walking away from that date, clearly from what y'all saw, like it was all good. So when I saw it air, I'm like, that's how I left. I had no idea. So that got me. That got me. That was my only shocker. That was my shocker. So low key, I shouldn't even been at Marvin's birthday party, but I forgave him.
Why you forgive him?
Because he not gonna like this either. But I promise it's a compliment. Marvin does things sometimes. And not this is not just my experiences, but I've seen him with, other people on the cast. And I don't know if it's like him being naive or just unaware. It's something about his personality that I'm like, it wasn't shade. it wasn't malice. Because honestly, going to the reunion, I saw Marvin and I didn't speak. And it wasn't on purpose. I just didn't know what I was thinking. Mind you, at the reunion, I don't know he eliminated me. I literally don't find out till it airs. So I'm just like, if he wants to speak, he'll speak. But we're not a connection. We haven't spoken really until or since shortly after his elimination. So he walked up to me and he was just like, "So you're not gonna speak to me?" And I was just like, "Oh, I'm finna go in on you. Like I'm finna really like put it all out there." And he was like, "No, wait a minute. Like, are you playing or?" And I was, but it's the sweet side of Marvin. Like you just can't be mad at him. And then I guess my question is, mad at him for what? Because I'm like, at the end of the day, for one reason or another, if I'm not your connection, you were bound to put me or take me out of your top or whatever. So I guess I look at it like this. The end result is still the same either way. I just wish I had known that that was how I got eliminated. Because based on, now this might have been an edit, but based on edit, my name wasn't the name that was being mentioned. It was two names that were being mentioned. And I kind of had to, somebody needs to know that they were supposed to go home on my week. But I would let them have that. Because they bad. They deserve that spot. So I'm gonna let them have it. Because if I'm being honest, the only other connection I would have, like I continue to say, would have been Christopher. But based on the love he was not getting, that would have been short-lived because I would have been the only person vouching for him, apparently. So, you know, everything has worked out in its timing, the way it was supposed to work out. So
are you would that be a case of ignoring red flags again? If you're, you kind of said about Marvin, he's naive, but is he really naive? Is he really?
No, okay. So some people, especially at this grown age, you know what you're doing. But I will say, I guess I can't stand with you on that because there's no incentive for me to take up for him. That's not my man. He eliminated me. That ain't my man. It would be easy.
You forgive him already?
Like, well, I mean, the thing is this: there's no benefit for me to defend him if that's not genuinely how I feel. There's people who played nice in my face, and I figured out who they were on the men's side and the women's side. And given certain conversations, I would very easily identify that they were not doing this out of a naive place. So when I say Marvin just might not have been aware of how that even really impacted him, because clearly we know the order that this all went in. I don't think he even knew that I was his one hold you down, you in my top every week connection. I mean, I told him that, but I think he really thought there was some other connections. I don't know how, but I think he really believed that. So I'm like, he wanted to pursue those connections. And I don't know. I think it was a lot of playing games led him. But that naive was like, boy, you're not reading people body language. How did you even think that these were your other connections? So it's a mixture of it. But I think it was naive Marvin pushing through. You don't want to believe
sounds like you're giving him a pass once more again. I'm not saying he's a bad guy. It sounds like you're giving him a pass again. Sounds like you're ignoring red flags all over again.
I don't ignore red flags, red stop signs, yield, any of that. We don't ignore. Now there's one that we ignore, but other than that one, we don't ignore.
Baby, it sounds like you ignoring it. It sounds like you like a Project Build-A-Bear, boo.
Well, to each his own. It's all love.
I mean, do you? It does. Do you? You like? It sounds like you like Build-A-Bear boos. You like a little bit of a project.
Build-A-Bear boos.
Yeah, you like a bit of a project.
I really do. And if I had to choose a side, and it's crazy with my relationship history, like how those things unfolded. I deal with somebody who's more, we'll call it assertive, versus somebody who's on like more close to Marvin's personality. And I think that's to be, appreciated. Like somebody who's sweet, how could you really be mad at them? and somebody who's caring and all those things. But I'm like, I know me and my strong personality. So, you know.
So you're willing. So let me be direct. So
Mhm.
you willing to? It seems like you. And this is my perception, by the way. It just doesn't have to be the truth.
Okay.
But it's given. It's given. It's given. What, like I said, you like Build a Bear Boo projects, but it's giving going below standard.
Oh, I could probably agree with you on that. And not and almost in every sense. And the crazy part, and I know you're not gonna believe me when I say this, you're
Go
not
on, babe.
you're not wrong.
Mm.
Um, but ain't nobody gonna rock with me. I
Why?
say this, but this is gonna be a thing. You're not wrong overall. But it's not because I don't know my worth. I know a lot of people have shared that with me, like you're the prize, and all that's true. Let's be clear. And it has nothing to do with my physical, like just
No,
I
you're a beautiful woman. Mm.
so thank you. It's like because at the end of the day, all that can go away through tragedy and so many other different things. So looks definitely fade. But I'm like, I think if I had to attribute below standard way of thinking or choosing, and like I said, I'm identifying that I've been made aware. Just really paying attention to how do I end up in the situations that I end up in. I never blame anybody else because it's like, okay, it's a pattern and you are
Mm.
the common denominator, right? So if I had to give a reason, I think it just goes back to the thing that I'm working on, which is assigning myself to people.
Mm.
Because I'm like, maybe it's not a pity thing. It's not that. Like, I can't really just say I figured it out. But you are absolutely
Mm.
not wrong. I think
So let me.
even in my date,
Mm.
not preferences, but like I don't know no more because based on that trip that everybody took to the house, some people want to be taken care of, some people don't, and apparently, if you
Mm.
do, that's a problem. Um, I do want to be catered to, and spoiled ain't the word because I think that's not. But you get where I'm going. Like I
I
want to
do.
like does those things. Do I need you to as like can I do it myself? Clearly, I can do it on my own. But I guess what I would want is somebody who does do those things. I want to take trips, who don't want to get flown out or whatever. So I do want those things, but I think it's because I've had them. Those things don't get my attention, so I end up looking deeper within a person, and then I look too deep because I'm like, no, I found that good side in you. But before I got to that deep good part, I bypassed some of these problem areas.
Mm.
So I'm like, no, it's not something I'm not aware of. It's just a work in progress.
Okay.
It's a work in progress.
No, listen. I definitely think that. I think as I'm listening to you, it's interesting because I think you're very self-aware. Um, you obviously do introspective work. You do understand about yourself, right? But just because we know better doesn't mean we always want to do better, right? And sometimes we don't know. Sometimes what we have a blind spot, right? So, for instance, like
Mhm.
myself, I used to be a Captain Save 'em. I really did, right? But
That's
Captain
so
Save 'em, the reason why I like to save them is because it would make me feel good and it made me feel validated to choose somebody that I would fix and that I could build up because then that would validate me as a person that I'm worth and I'm worthy because if I can fix you and you can give me the love that I require and I need and listening to how you describe certain situations and the relationships, ignoring red flags is symptomatic of somebody who is trying to uh, that that has inadvertently, um, not even inadvertently, consciously, you consciously ignore the red flags to get to a place where you are. you want to be in a place where you can build somebody up, because it's like if I ignore those red flags and I get to a place where I'm building that person up, it actually is about me and my ego. When I say ego, I don't there's a need to be validated and to be praised and to be adored, right? And I think this goes back, if I'm honest with you, I really think this goes back to young Unique and losing dad early. Because as I was saying earlier, I was like, when I was picking, I was like, that impacts us so deeply. And everything you've mentioned is exactly what I've been spending the last 4 hours in the morning listening to,
Mm,
right? And so even myself, there's a sexualness to myself. Nothing's ever happened to me in my life. It's just that because of the detachment that I have to emotions, I can be very hypersexual. So I
mm,
don't mind how, I don't mind. I can have many partners, whatever. I don't care. It doesn't affect me that way because I'm so detached from my emotions. But that's because of what I've experienced as a kid in terms of the detachment emotionally. And the rebel in me too. I have a rebellious spirit in me, which is I don't like being told what to do. I don't like being boxed in, and I don't like being controlled. It is
mm.
triggers for me. Don't tell me what to do. Don't tell me this. Don't I will do the opposite.
Yeah,
Right. And it's funny because when you're mentioning your story, the very things that you consciously knew in your own heart and your own mind, even though you knew it, you still went past that line, right? So even though you knew that what was good for you personally, that's why I called it a rebellion. It's like at that point, the betrayal is not of anybody else; it's of self.
right.
It's like I know better, but I want to see, I want to explore. Your inquisitiveness is like I want to learn, be hit on the head, and then I'll know. You know what I mean? At least I've tried it. At least
Well,
I've gone and done.
I think you're not wrong. I think this is really accurate. But if I had to add something to it, and what I feel like is more the bulk of it, especially like starting out and not just, this show, not my past marriage, but just all interactions, I think I go above and beyond with, how they say, I think I took this to the extreme and it's become a thing. Treat people how you want to be treated. I am
Mm,
big on showing you through me treating you the way that I treat you, how I want to be treated. But it's like I don't give a pause to let you to be like, okay, it's your turn. Let me see how you'll treat me. I just keep going and be like, okay, this is my loyalty. I don't play about my friends. I don't play about my man. I don't play about my family. Unique don't play. So it's like I think it gets to that point where here we go with this pitcher and it's pouring, 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 it's emptying out. And I think I can't go as far as to say like a false sense of loyalty because my actions are genuine. I mean what I'm doing. That's real love that I'm pouring out. I think I set the timer for to go off way is for hours and hours and hours when it really should be in seconds for me to do this. And then you show me, it's you're reciprocating what I've given you. So that's part of the problem too. It's a loyalty thing because I'm like I go hard for the people that I care about. So it's one of those things again I've identified and I'm working on, but I have to like draw back on timeline. Like how many times do you get to cross this? How many times do you get to push this out? How long? When is enough enough? Like I got a thing about walking away. That's not. I'm not a quitter. That's like a weakness. And I know that's not accurate, but I'm saying like my mind says, oh, if you quit, that's weak. So
mm,
sometimes when there are situations where I am very basically completely aware of the situation and I stay, that's why I said earlier it's not about like placing blame, it's about taking ownership. What happened in my marriage really happened. But
mm,
after a certain point, you can't blame him no more because you're staying.
agree.
So I think that's what I mean by okay, I got to take ownership. And some stuff it was easier for me to fix, like about myself and my personality. And other stuff it's still lingering. And I think it's because it's not just a love life thing. It's just my relationships in general. I care, and I think my mindset is um one day somebody will value that and they won't fumble it. One day somebody won't take it for granted, I guess is the better phrase. And I feel like it's a level of foolishness, or I guess, when I guess it's a level of stupidity. But I never regret how I treat people. I never regret like the love and effort and time I pour into them, because I'm like, that's you that's losing at the end. So
Mhm.
I guess that's what's not helping me to work on it faster, or turn this around faster, because I'm like, could you really feel bad about treating somebody right? Like that, if
Yeah,
that was like the worst, that's how you would feel bad about. Well, I guess
absolutely.
I don't.
Because
I
because
don't.
you're not doing it in the right vein and fashion. Although you're telling, listen, you putting all your love into a space which has no potential for investment, return on investment.
Oh
It's
no,
not
I'm with
love.
you on that. No, I'm with you on
It's
that.
not love.
That's not what I'm referring to. So no, we on the same
Okay.
page with that. And like I said, and I think that's why I keep bouncing back to my marriage. Like that was just flat out what everything you just described. So I'm like, no, there's no denial with that. Like I walked into that open eyed, and like I knew it all. Like I was a genius in that situation. And all that genius juice was poured out
Mm,
on the concrete somewhere, and I just walked off without it. Um, but I think in more recent situations, like on the show, everybody started out on a clean slate. And I felt like that was one of those examples of me being me and pouring that energy in. And not, of course, not at the mansion, but as those relationships and connections were either getting stronger or dwindling, I just kind of reacted accordingly. So once you show me something, and I think that's new, Unique. Once so I guess maybe I didn't got myself in a situation with the way I've explained it. This is a better way to sum it up. Once I felt like I had figured it out with the Marvin and his girlfriend thing, it wasn't like a conversation and continuing conversations to get down to the bottom of this. Now, I might have been wrong. It's so many different things that made me say, no, I know I'm not tripping. So once that happened, I hadn't talked to Marvin until the reunion. And even since then, like we were good as of the reunion. But even since then, like, you got a whole girlfriend. This was based on like romantic connection. I didn't think it would be appropriate. So like this past weekend was the first time in a while that we had any interaction, but it's all good, it's positive. It worked out in that way, because I'm like, I could have taken it a different way, but why? Like they happy. And no, I can't, hold on, because Kojo not finna get on to me for that. I know why I could have taken it a different way. I just choose to be happy. I choose to not go back and forth with people, and that ain't my man. So I guess I feel like, what's the point of that conversation? And it's not finna end with us trying to continue to pursue anything or anything like that. So I don't look at it as some of the cast members see it, as me taking a loss. No, that just wasn't my person. And whether that happened in the way that it did or later on down the line, it was gonna reveal itself. So yeah, I don't feel no type of way about that. Apparently I got a lot of homework to do and working on me, Kojo. So I can't be worried about what they got going on.
listen, I mean,
Kojo, you knew this was gonna go this direction. You know this interview was gonna go this direction.
yeah, but maybe I thought it would go earlier, but we're here. So, yeah, okay. All right. Let me give you my honest sentiments of what. Let me give you my what I feel. Okay,
Hmm.
so from a man's perspective, what I feel.
Okay.
So oftentimes I read people's energy, and so this is me giving you a perceptional energy kind of response. This is not me talking about observation in terms of breaking it down psychology wise. This is me energy wise.
Hmm.
Although you are conscious, self aware, what my energy is reading is and I spoke about this the other day. You know, on an intellectual level, what your worth is, but what you believe your worth is does not equate to what you know intellectually. Because whatever energy I'm getting from you at the moment, they're not matching. Personally, this is
What's
my personal opinion.
the okay? So the energy you're getting now compared to what is not matching.
So I believe that on an intellectual level, you understand. Let's say, for instance, your worth is 100. You
Mm-hmm.
believe that. I'm sorry, you know that on an intellectual level, you know it to be true.
Mm-hmm.
But what you believe about yourself in terms of worth, I do not feel matches the intellectual understanding of that worth.
No,
Because
I
I'm finding a gap.
right. No, I got you on that part. I'm saying from my energy though. Has
Yeah.
why is what about my energy? Is it my body language? Is it the
It's not just body language, it is the things that you're saying. And
Mhm,
so when the things that you're saying and how you're saying it and even how you describe certain situations from me, like observing the energy wise, right?
mhm,
And that's why I'm trying not to go. I don't want to go to the psychology. I want to stick on the energy aspect because that's how oftentimes men obviously subconsciously pick up energy. The energy you're giving me is telling me that there's a breach, and I can expose the breach. So,
mhm,
for instance, when I talk about this, I talk about it from a position of when men become wolves, they are looking for gaps and looking for gaps in the armor.
mhm,
And when I'm listening to you, I'm like, there's a massive chink in the armor, and the massive chink is intellectually you know what to be true, but what you believe isn't matching. Hence why the behavior doesn't match what you know intellectually. So though you understand it from a perspective of self-awareness and introspection, you understand you, the belief of who you actually are and what you're supposed to be doesn't match the intellect. Therefore, you put yourself in situations where you're less than. You don't need to be in those situations. The Marvin situation is actually a really good one because actually you kind of you kind of broke it down and was like, actually, let me be real, like, I'm looking at it, I'm looking at the situation and I'm understanding that the timelines might be matching, things like that. You can kind of see this relationship isn't for you, although you're willing to explore
well,
on a
that's at the end though, by the time we get to that.
mm,
Because like and that's why I keep saying without being detailed, and it's nothing juicy by the way. But like there were little things that he was into, not sexually. It's just like some of the things that I was just like, ooh, that would probably get on my nerves. And it wasn't like a big deal maybe to somebody else, but I was just like, long term, that might get on my nerves. He may or may not have felt that about some things about me. But it was just like if I felt like it was already dwindling. And then now this whole math thing is, oh, wait a minute, you got a whole girl. Like it was like adding insult to injury. And I think that was history repeating itself in the situations I end up in. But I think I don't want to say I couldn't change that. The part that I felt like I had the choice in was how I handled it, how I reacted to it when I found out. Um, or when I came to my conclusion, let me say it that way. And I felt like that was something new for me or something different for me because before it would just be like, it wouldn't have changed anything, but I think my reaction would have been, well, let's have this conversation because how did we get here? Even though how we got here doesn't matter because the end result is you got somebody else. So I see changes. Um, and I think depending on I feel like this is all under one umbrella, but it's still like different things that need to be worked on separately. I see the changes in some of those things more than others. And it's not that one thing is a priority over the other. I think it's just I see the progress depending on different situations that have come across my lap recently. So some things I'm like, oh, I think I got better until I get reached with one of those situations. Matter of fact, one of those situations happened yesterday. And I think I handled it well, but I kind of didn't handle it. I'm gonna let y'all in on what it was. Somebody sent me a picture and a video unsolicited, and I I really wanted to like just go in and be like, that's inappropriate. But that's not the words I was gonna use. So instead of actually saying anything, I just was like, no, I'm just gonna block you. But I felt like even though I guess I did it the disrespect, um, I felt like it wasn't handled. I felt like I just avoided it. So I'm like, I'd be trying to like dissect things, but I'm like, do I unblock you to cuss you out now to block you? So I'm like, I guess I'm just taking it situation by situation. And I'm still trying to be aware. But I think that's just step one. So like now, once you know, what do you do with that information? So I appreciate your perspective and breaking it down for me.
I
I'm working
appreciate
on
it.
it.
You got it, man. You know what I mean? You got it. I appreciate you still. Is there anything that you would like us to get behind? Anything you want us to, support in the meantime? You know what I mean?
Absolutely, and thank you for asking. So one of the things that I'm working on my own, just independently, is I got a lot of questions during the process, like from cast members. And of course, since the show has aired, about like stuff with production and how do you do this and how do you get to this point on screen and off screen. And lately, it's been a lot of questions about how do you get on reality TV.
Okay.
So, I'm not hosting this big, huge master class where you got to mortgage, refinance your house. What I want to do is, instead of answering people like individually, is like set up a space, hopefully in person and virtually for those who are not, local to Dallas. Um, just a platform where we can all just kind of pull some of these questions together. And then, like, maybe you had a question someone else didn't think to ask, and just kind of help people when it comes to my specialty and, what I know or do best. Because what I have to say is, from the beginning of my, journey in this industry, I don't have formal education in it. And it's not something I'm bragging about. I'm just saying, like, there, other than God, because that's where I believe it came from, I shouldn't be in the rooms that I'm in. I shouldn't be able to do the things that I do. And I really feel like God sent me people who did not charge me and who said, "Oh, because you have interest, let me show you." And I didn't have to worry about them flirting on the back end. Like, people genuinely saw I had an interest and took me under their wing. So what I want to do is just, give that back, in that setting. And then, of course, with my production team, Q and Coda, shout out. We actually, I missed it by a fluke. We just had a table read. So for those who think they might be interested in becoming an actor, or, even working on the production side, we do a lot of stuff at our studio. So if you guys follow me, of course, as I have those events, or am aware that, we have those events put together, I'll start doing a better job at posting them, because I ain't no hater. If y'all want to be great, I want you to be great too. So just kind of, I guess we can say that's kind of community outreach, because if you notice, nothing about what I said cost anything. So don't let that be your excuse if you're interested. So check me out on my Instagram. I'll post that information as it's up and coming.
I appreciate it, Eunik. Thank you so much. No, it's been interesting. I can't even lie to you. I've actually kind of enjoyed this conversation from a different perspective. It's been really intriguing, as well. So, sometimes when you have those kind of conversations, you get to have these moments which are really unique. So it's I didn't mean to say that, but yeah, you get to have these really interesting moments. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I really do appreciate that as well. Audience, thank you so much for joining us in this conversation. You got to see a different angle today. You got to see a different spectrum of conversation, and I hope you guys have enjoyed yourselves as well. And maybe one of those ones you might have to take. You have to go back and kind of deep the things that have been said in there as well. So make sure you guys like, share, subscribe, and click on that bell button for notification of uploads. We appreciate y'all, and don't do anything I wouldn't do, okay? Because there's a lot that I would do, and that's the problem. So I need you to stay out of the